Chapter 1335. Wu Qingkong panicked and was shocked. Without any hesitation, Wu Qingkong performed bloodline fusion and transformed into a battle sword. He slashed at the long sticks madly. Clang! Clang! The long sticks hit Wu Qingkong's battle sword. The battle sword shook violently. In just a few breaths, Wu Qingkong's battle sword collapsed and he returned to his human form. No! Wu Qingkong screamed in horror. He spat out blood and tried to escape. However, there were long rods all around him, sealing off all his escape routes. Hundreds of long sticks rained down on Wu Qingkong. The shadows of the sticks completely engulfed Wu Qingkong. Ah! Ah! A shrill scream resounded in the drunken Immortal garden. Everyone who was watching the battle looked at each other in dismay. How could this be? The result was completely different from what they had expected. Wu Qingkong was the strongest genius below the giants. His cultivation had reached the third-level spirit god realm. How many people among the younger generation in the divine wilderness continent could defeat him? Moreover, it was Lu Ming, a brat who they did not know at all. It was a matter of killing him in one move. However, the result was completely out of everyone's expectations. Lu Ming had been using the same formation all along. However, wasn't that formation very weak at the beginning? It couldn't stop Wu Qingkong at all. Why did it suddenly become so strong later on? The power of those long rods increased by an unknown amount. Even Wu Qingkong found it difficult to block them. The shrill scream was still ringing. After 10 minutes, the hundreds of long sticks disappeared, revealing Wu Qingkong's figure. Miserable, it was too miserable. Everyone who saw Wu Qingkong's figure could not help but think of the word miserable in their minds. Wu Qingkong was lying on the ground like a dead dog. He had been beaten countless times. His clothes were in tatters and his body was full of scars. His face was swollen like a pig's head. His nose bridge was broken and all of his teeth were missing. His mouth was crooked. If no one said that he was Wu Qingkong, no one would have recognized him. Most importantly, Wu Qingkong's aura was extremely weak. His cultivation had been destroyed. The whip just now had destroyed Wu Qingkong's cultivation. Wu Qingkong had become a cripple. Many people sucked in a breath of cold air, their bodies cold. This was especially the case for some of the second and third-rate chosen. They couldn't help but back up and look at Lu Ming with serious expressions. Who was this person? Where did he come from? How could he be so strong? Moreover, this person practiced the Tao of inscription. In the divine wilderness continent, there were only a handful of geniuses who practiced the Tao of inscription. None of them could defeat Wu Qingkong. They racked their brains but still could not figure out who this person was. Could this person be Lu Ming? But he had never heard that Lu Ming had such deep attainments in the Tao of inscription. Who are you? Underworld Child's eyes were dark as he stared at Lu Ming. He wanted to see something from Lu Ming's expression, but he was disappointed. Lu Ming's face was very calm. He couldn't see anything. Who am I? You are not qualified to know. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Hee, how arrogant. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you defeated Wu Qingkong. I can kill Wu Qingkong with a flick of my finger. Underworld Child glanced at Wu Qingkong casually and smiled disdainfully. Bang! Underworld Child took a step forward and his aura surged crazily. Today was a banquet specially prepared for him. However, Lu Ming had attacked continuously, injuring Xia Zhen and crippling Wu Qingkong. This was a slap to Underworld Child's face. There was no way he would let Lu Ming leave alive. Underworld Child's aura grew stronger and stronger. Third-level spiritual god, fourth-level spiritual god, peak fourth-level spiritual god. It didn't stop even after reaching the peak fourth-level spiritual god. Boom! Underworld Child's aura had reached the 5th level spiritual god. Gasps could be heard at the scene. Underworld Child is indeed a magnate-level genius. His cultivation has reached the 5th level spiritual god realm. Underworld Child has awakened a 9th level divine bloodline. His combat strength is incomparably strong. A 5th level spiritual god can already kill a high-level spiritual god. This is too shocking. Underworld Child was surrounded by underworld chi. He smiled confidently and said, "Brat, I don't care who you are. Today, you will die." Swoosh! A pitch-black machete appeared in Underworld Child's hand. He pounced at Lu Ming and slashed his machete at Lu Ming. Lu Ming stood there motionlessly. This time, no inscription appeared and no array appeared. In an instant, Underworld Child's machete was about to land on Lu Ming's head. At this moment, Lu Ming extended 2 fingers and pointed at Underworld Child. Swoosh! A ray of sword chi appeared between Lu Ming's fingers. Puchi! Underworld Child's machete was easily cut in half. The sword chi continued to slash at Underworld Child. Not good. Underworld Child's expression changed drastically. He felt the threat of death from Lu Ming's sword chi. At this moment, his heart was trembling. Even his soul was trembling. Retreat, retreat, retreat. He roared in his heart and frantically retreated. At the same time, he used all his means to defend himself. But soon, he despaired. The sword chi in Lu Ming's fingers could cut through everything. Under everything, all of his defenses were cut through like tofu. Then, he felt a chill between his brows. In the next moment, he fell into boundless darkness and lost consciousness. What's going on? The surrounding onlookers were puzzled. At first, they saw Underworld Child attack Lu Ming. Then, they saw a ray of sword chi burst out from Lu Ming's fingers. Then, they saw Underworld Child frantically retreat. But after retreating a few meters, Underworld Child's body stopped. He stood there motionless. Many people were puzzled and did not understand what had happened. But immediately, everyone's eyes widened. Because at this moment, a bloody scar appeared between Underworld Child's brows. The scar quickly grew longer and longer. Then, everyone saw Underworld Child's body split in 2. Dead. Underworld Child was dead. He was cut in half by a sword. How was this possible? Underworld Child's cultivation was at the 5th level of the spirit god realm. Moreover, he was a giant genius. With his combat strength, it would be easy for him to kill a 7th level spirit god. Such a genius was killed by Lu Ming's sword chi as easily as killing a chicken. How was this possible? How could Lu Ming be so strong? Who are you? Who are you? Xia Yan and Xia Zhen were so scared that their faces turned pale. They roared crazily. Lu Ming curled his lips slightly, and the sword chi in his fingers disappeared. This was a formation carved with his body. With his cultivation as an emperor, the formation carved by him was naturally terrifying. Using it to deal with Underworld Child was a waste of talent. Buzz! Inscriptions flashed under Lu Ming's feet. In the next moment, Lu Ming appeared in front of Xia Zhen. Ah, what are you trying to do? This is the holy city. What are you trying to do? Xia Zhen roared in fear. I'm going to search your soul. Lu Ming's indifferent voice sounded. He stretched out a finger and pointed at Xia Zhen's forehead. Chapter 1336. Lu Ming's finger tapped on Xia Zhen's forehead, and an inscription flashed. Xia Zhen's expression stiffened, and his gaze became unfocused as if he was in a daze. Lu Ming was using a powerful method to search Xia Zhen's soul. Inscribers had some methods that were even more bizarre and mysterious than martial artists. The soul-searching technique was obtained from the heavenly profound saint. Lu Ming wanted to find out the whereabouts of Supreme Nine Sons, by Shijin, and the others from Xiaofan. "Stop, you bastard! Kill!" A few angry shouts could be heard and a few figures leaped across the air. As soon as their voices fell, a few terrifying attacks were launched toward Lu Ming. Experts from the Xia clan had arrived, and these people were all at the 7th level of the spirit god realm. Lu Ming did not move at all. However, a large array suddenly appeared in the sky. The large array glowed and condensed into a few battle swords. With a slash, a few 7th-level spirit gods were killed in the air. So strong. In the drunken immortal garden, many young geniuses were trembling in their hearts. Lu Ming was too strong. Killing 7th-level spirit gods was as easy as chopping vegetables. This person shouldn't be someone from the younger generation, but someone from the older generation who snuck in. Someone guessed. Apart from Lu Ming, they couldn't think of a second person in the younger generation who could be so powerful. However, this person was obviously an inscriber, so he shouldn't be Lu Ming. Therefore, many people guessed that this person should be someone from the older generation. No. At this moment, Lu Ming frowned. He realized that Xiaofan didn't know the whereabouts of Supreme Nine Sons, by Shijin, and the others at all. Maybe Xiaofan's cultivation is too low, so he doesn't have the right to know about this. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat, and he looked at Xia Yan in the next moment. Xia Yan was a second-grade prodigy. Apart from Xia Nianjuan, he was the strongest person in the younger generation of the Xia clan. Maybe he knew. Xia Yan's expression changed when Lu Ming's gaze landed on him. Without a second thought, he soared into the sky, intending to leave this place. However, Lu Ming gently waved his hand in the air, and dense inscriptions suddenly appeared above Xia Yan. A large formation appeared, condensing into chains that wrapped around Xia Yan. Xia Yan's cultivation was at the 2nd level of the spirit god realm, but no matter how hard he tried, it was completely useless against the chains. Lu Ming released Xiaofan and walked towards Xia Yan. Xiaofan's eyes were still unfocused, as if he had lost his mind. Yes, Xiaofan was already an idiot. Just now, when Lu Ming had searched his soul, he hadn't held back at all. He had used the most direct, most violent, and most barbaric method to search for what Lu Ming wanted. Therefore, Xiaofan's soul had suffered an indelible injury. He had already lost his mind. "Save me, save me." When Xia Yan saw Lu Ming walking towards him, he screamed in fear. "You're courting death. How dare you act presumptuously in the holy city? Exterminate 9 generations of your family." In the distance, surging roars sounded out. More Xia clan experts had arrived. Swoosh! 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 At least a dozen experts charged over. Numerous terrifying auras shot out like smoke signals. The weakest aura was at the 9th level of the spirit god realm, and there was even a perfected spirit god realm expert. The strongest was shockingly a supreme realm expert. In an instant, a dozen experts appeared in the sky above the drunken immortal garden and launched an attack at Lu Ming. Lu Ming waved his hand, and dense inscriptions appeared in the sky. They seemed to have a life of their own, and numerous large formations were condensed. Whoosh! 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 The large formation glowed and formed a few dozen thick chains that wrapped around the experts. After that, Lu Ming didn't even look at these people. He directly appeared before Xia Yan and pointed his finger at the space between Xia Yan's eyebrows. Soul search. Bang! 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 In the sky, explosions continued. The dozen experts joined forces, but they couldn't break through Xia Yan's defense. The dozens of chains seemed to have a life of their own as they waved and wrapped around the experts, causing them to be exhausted. Lu Ming pointed his finger at the space between Xia Yan's eyebrows. After about a dozen breaths, his eyes suddenly lit up. He found it. He found the whereabouts of Supreme Nine Sons and the others. In Xia Yan's memory, Supreme Nine Sons, by Shijin, and the others were imprisoned in the 9 underworlds. It was the 9 underworlds again. Back then, Xie Nianqing was imprisoned in the 9 underworlds, and Xiao Wan was also rescued from the 9 underworlds. Looks like I have to make a trip to the 9 underworlds again. Lu Ming muttered, and his finger left the space between Xia Yan's eyebrows. Xia Yan collapsed on the ground like a pile of mud, panting heavily. His entire body was drenched in sweat. He didn't turn into an idiot like Xia Zhen. His cultivation was much stronger than Xia Zhen's. He had reached the 2nd level of the spirit god realm, and his soul was stable. Therefore, his soul wasn't damaged much. Whoosh! Lu Ming waved his hand. Inscriptions faintly flashed on his arm, and a ray of sword chi cut through the void. Puff! Puff! Those experts didn't even have time to scream before they were killed in the air by the sword chi. Huh, let's go. Lu Ming laughed and took a step forward. His figure suddenly disappeared without a trace. In the drunken immortal garden, many young geniuses looked at each other. Their eyes were still filled with shock. He was too strong. No matter what their cultivation was, he was killed in one move. Even Supremes were the same. A word appeared in everyone's mind. An emperor. Lu Ming was most likely an emperor in disguise. An emperor had sneaked into the holy city. Boom! Boom! In the depths of the holy city, a terrifying aura soared into the sky. A few figures appeared in the sky above the drunken immortal garden. The vast pressure made all the young people tremble, as if they were about to kneel down. Emperors. The few people who appeared later were all emperors. The few emperors spread out their spiritual senses to search for Lu Ming, but they couldn't find any trace of him. Search the entire city. Don't let anyone suspicious go. A ruler gave the order. Unfortunately, half a day had passed, and there was still no news of Lu Ming. Everything that happened in the drunken immortal garden had spread throughout the holy city. An unfamiliar young man first crippled Wu Qingkong, then killed the underworld child. What was even more terrifying was that even a Supremes couldn't fight back in his hands. One of the emperors, Xia Zhen, became an idiot because of this person. When the news spread, it caused an uproar in the holy city. Many people knew that the northern plains, or the divine army, had begun to move. Everyone was guessing who this young man was. Some guessed that it was Lu Ming, because Lu Ming was most likely to sneak into the holy city to save Supreme Nine Yang and the others. But immediately, someone refuted, saying that this person cultivated the path of inscription, and shouldn't be Lu Ming. Activate the divine secret instrument. In the end, the Xia family's higher-ups gave the order. The Xia family activated the divine secret instrument. Their target was Lu Ming. Finally, when the instrument was activated, they found that Lu Ming was still in the northern plains, not in the holy city. In the northern plains, in a secret room of the 100 Beast tribe, a projection of the divine secret instrument appeared above Lu Ming's main body. It seems that the divine secret instrument also has a weakness. It can only find my main body, but not my second body. Lu Ming's main body ended his cultivation, opened his eyes, and smiled. Seal. Chapter 1337. Just as the Xia clan and Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace were searching for Lu Ming's second body had already changed his appearance. Even his aura had changed. The Xia clan and Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace could not find Lu Ming at all. Not far from the entrance of the 9 underworlds, a black-faced youth arrived. This black-faced youth was Lu Ming. The security is even tighter. Lu Ming watched from afar. The entrance of the 9 underworlds was even tighter than before. Not only were there more inscription formations, but there were also more experts guarding it. Lu Ming sensed carefully and sensed the auras of many primes. If I barge in now, I will alert the enemy. At that time, the Xia clan and Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace will attack with all their might and block me inside. Not only will I not be able to save Senior Jiuyang and the others, but I will also be in danger. Lu Ming frowned as he thought of a countermeasure. On the day of the alliance, they will definitely send people to bring Senior Jiuyang and the others out. That will be the best time. After thinking for a while, Lu Ming had an idea. His figure flashed as he left this place. Time passed very quickly. In the blink of an eye, the day of the alliance between the Xia clan and Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace arrived. The holy city was unprecedentedly lively. The experts of Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace and Xia clan gathered in the holy city. In the eastern wilderness, outside 9 Dragon City, space suddenly split open, and a figure stepped out. It was Lu Ming. After so many years, Lu Ming returned to 9 Dragon City once again. Whoosh! Lu Ming stepped out and disappeared. In the next moment, he appeared in 9 Dragon City. The defenses of 9 Dragon City were meaningless to Lu Ming. Lu Ming stepped in the air, and the endless mountains and rivers of 9 Dragon City flashed under his feet. Soon, Lu Ming appeared in the depths of 9 Dragon City, at the dragon head of one of the dragon veins. Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron. Lu Ming looked at the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron, which was as tall as a mountain. His goal for this trip was the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron. The Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron would definitely play a decisive role in this battle. Roar! The 9 Dragon bloodline appeared, and it roared toward the sky. Wang! As soon as the 9 Dragons bloodline appeared, the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron trembled, and the buzzing sound spread out for hundreds of thousands of miles. The Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron is moving. What's going on? Why is the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron, which has not moved since ancient times, moving again? The unusual movement of the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron attracted the attention of the people nearby. Many figures flew across the void and flew over at an extremely fast speed. What's that? A dragon? Ah! That's 9 dragons. Lu Ming. It's Lu Ming. What? Lu Ming dares to come here? Many people shouted in shock when they saw the 9 dragons. Some people who had experienced the great battle of 9 Dragon City were very familiar with Lu Ming's 9 Dragons bloodline. They recognized the 9 Dragons bloodline at a glance and immediately cried out in fright. Rise! Lu Ming was too lazy to pay attention to those people. He focused on controlling the 9 Dragons bloodline and resonating with the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron. Wang! Buzz! The 9 Dragon Cauldron shook more and more violently. Eventually, it rose from the ground and flew towards Lu Ming, floating above Lu Ming's head. Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron, come here! Lu Ming shouted. The 9 dragons wrapped around the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron and a mysterious aura rushed out in all directions. Clang! Another dragon vein shook violently. The second Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron moved and floated in the air, flying towards Lu Ming. Then, the third Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron moved as well. Swoosh! Swoosh! The Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron broke through the air. In the blink of an eye, there were 3 Divine 9 Dragon Cauldrons floating above Lu Ming's head. Lu Ming, how dare you? Put down the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron. A few long roars came from afar. A few figures broke through the air and flew over. They were extremely fast. As soon as the voice sounded, they had already appeared above the dragon vein. The master of the Dongfang family, the master of the Kong family, Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. They were a few supremes. Some of them were old acquaintances. They were the masters of the other 6 ancient families. Lu Ming ignored them and continued to control the 9 dragons' bloodline to summon the divine 9-dragon cauldron. The Supremes' faces turned ugly after being ignored by Lu Ming. "Let's attack together." The Supremes exchanged glances and reached a consensus. Bang! 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 A few brilliant rays of light burst out and shot towards Lu Ming. The rays of light were beautiful but filled with murderous intent. "Piss off." Lu Ming's eyes turned cold as he took a step forward. Bang! A terrifying force crushed the space and surged toward the few supreme beings. The attacks of the Supremes were as weak as tofu before this force. 2 of the 9 heaven Supremes even exploded and died on the spot. As for the masters of the 3 ancient families, they were sent flying for 1,000 miles and crashed into a dozen mountains. Blood spurted out from their mouths and their auras weakened. He killed 2 Supremes with 1 strike and severely injured the other 3. Such battle prowess was extremely shocking. In the distance, there was silence. No one dared to speak. Today, the experts of the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace had all gone to the sacred city. Not a single sovereign was left behind. No one could stop Lu Ming. Is this Lu Ming's battle prowess? There were some young geniuses in the crowd. They were all on the list of top 1,000 talents in the Eastern Wilderness. Some of them had even competed with Lu Ming before. At this moment, they were looking at the figure on the dragon vein with dismay and shock. Back then, they were of the same generation and competed with each other. However, in just a few years, the distance between them and Lu Ming was already thousands of miles. There was no comparison at all. They knew that they would never be able to catch up to Lu Ming in this lifetime. Roar! The roar of the 9 dragons shook the sky. Clang! Clang! The divine 9-dragon cauldron kept vibrating. One after another, they flew towards Lu Ming. More and more divine 9-dragon cauldrons appeared above Lu Ming's head. 4 cauldrons, 5 cauldrons, 6 cauldrons, quick, spread the news. Someone in the 9-dragon city ordered. Whoosh! Whoosh! Voice transmission jade talismans flew out one after another. However, as soon as they flew out of the 9-dragon city, a light screen rose up and intercepted all the voice transmission jade talismans. Several figures stood in the void outside the 9-dragon city. Among them, there was a dean of the World Academy who cultivated the path of inscription. There were also 7 or 8 Supremes who cultivated the path of inscription. They had already set up a barrier outside the 9-dragon city to intercept the voice transmission jade talismans. Lu Ming summoned more and more divine 9-dragon cauldrons. In the end, all 9 cauldrons were gathered and suspended above Lu Ming's head. "I'll lend it to you for a few days. After a few days, I'll let you return to where you came from," Lu Ming whispered. The 9 dragons opened their mouths and swallowed. All 9 divine 9-dragon cauldrons flew into the mouth of the 9 dragons' bloodline and disappeared. Roar! 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 At this moment, the 9 dragon bloodlines in the 9-dragon city went berserk. They were like 9 real dragons that wanted to break through the sky. Lu Ming's face was calm as if he had expected this. He waved his hand and 9 inscription talismans flew out from his storage ring. The 9 inscription talismans flew out and flew towards a dragon bloodline. Chapter 1338. Suppress. Lu Ming whispered. The 9 inscription talisman scrolls landed on the 9 dragon veins. The endless inscriptions seemed to be alive as they spread over the dragon veins, temporarily suppressing them. The 9 dragon veins temporarily returned to peace. According to ancient legends, the divine 9-dragon cauldron was refined by an ancient expert to suppress the 9 dragon veins. If the divine 9-dragon cauldron was gone for too long, the 9 dragon veins would definitely rebel. Lu Ming had already expected this, so he had asked his second body to refine the 9 inscription talisman scrolls to suppress the 9 dragon veins. Although it could only suppress them for a few days was enough. After the dragon veins calmed down, Lu Ming put away the 9 dragon veins and took a step forward. In the next moment, he appeared outside the 9 dragon city. "Rise!" the old dean of the World Academy shouted. The other supremes assisted, and a barrier appeared outside the 9 dragon city. This barrier was used to block the voice transmission jade talisman, so that DE would not know that Lu Ming had come here to take away the divine 9 dragon cauldron. After setting up the barrier, they set off with Lu Ming. Soon, they returned to the northern plains through the trans-border teleportation array. "Let's go to the holy city." With the order, figures tore through the space and headed toward the holy city. At the same time, the experts of the divine army also set off toward the holy city. The holy city was bustling. Above the holy city, a platform appeared in the void. On it, there were real dragons and divine phoenixes flying and cheelants roaring. This was the platform used by the Xia family during the million-year sacrifice. Now, they were using it again. It showed how much importance the Xia family placed on this alliance ceremony. "The Holy Emperor has arrived." A voice rang out, spreading throughout the entire sacred city. In the depths of the palace, figures flew out one after another. Leading them was the current Holy Emperor, Xia Qitian. Beside Xia Qitian, there was a white-haired old man. He was the previous generation's Holy Emperor. Other than that, there were more than a dozen people. Each of them had a powerful aura and were all emperors. A small portion of them were from the Xia family. The rest were from the Xia family's alliance and the emperors of other overlords. Many experts landed on the platform. Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace's DE and the other emperors have arrived. Another shout rang out. Whoosh! 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 A group of experts flew over from afar and landed on the platform. The leader of the group was Emperor DE. Next to him were 2 old men. One of them was wearing a golden robe. He was the strong cultivator of the peak of the Second Emperor realm who had appeared at the World Academy. The other old man was wearing a long red robe. His aura was not any weaker than the golden-robed old man. Behind him, there were more than 10 other rulers following him. "Brother DE." Xia Qitian laughed and stepped forward to salute DE. "Brother Xia." DE bowed. To bring Xia Xia Jiao, bring Xia Xia. To bring Xia Xia Jiao, bring Xia Xia Qitian instructed. "Yes." To the to be to be. To the be to the to die. Is. Now. Come. On. It. The entrance to the abyss of demons was to the north of the sacred city. After a while, they were far away from the center of the sacred city. When they were about to reach the entrance to the abyss of demons, at this moment, inscriptions appeared on Lu Ming's body. His figure almost disappeared and his aura was completely gone. Without a sound, Lu Ming appeared next to the person at the back. With a wave of his hand, that person did not even have time to react before Lu Ming put him into the mountain river diagram. Lu Ming's body wriggled rapidly. He looked exactly like that man. The emperor at the front seemed to have sensed something. He looked back, but he didn't find anything. That's strange. There was a fluctuation just now. The emperor frowned. He scanned the crowd with his spiritual consciousness, but he didn't find anything. He gave up and continued to fly forward. Lu Ming secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He had finally sneaked in without anyone noticing. This was also because Lu Ming had mastered the path of inscription. It was very mysterious. At the same time, he had the help of the mountain river diagram. Otherwise, it would have been impossible. It wasn't easy to swap under the nose of an emperor. Soon, they arrived at the entrance to the abyss of demons. With the emperor leading the way, they naturally entered the abyss of demons smoothly. Looking at the familiar environment, Lu Ming sighed. He didn't expect to come to the abyss of demons again so soon. Xia Jiuyang and the others are suppressed in the abyss of demons' flames. Their cultivations are sealed, so they can't resist. But we still have to be careful. These people aren't simple. The leading emperor warned. He had a horse face. Lu Ming had never seen this emperor before, but it was obvious that he was the emperor of the Xia family. The Xia family indeed had a deep foundation. In the beginning, there were only 3 emperors in the Xia family, but it was obviously more than that. Who knew how many more emperors were hidden in the dark? Yes. The others responded. Okay. The horse-faced emperor nodded and led the group into the depths of the abyss of demons domain. Along the way, the horse-faced emperor released his emperor's aura. When the demon temple clan sensed it, they were almost scared to death and fled far away. Soon, they were hundreds of millions of miles deep into the abyss of demons domain. In front of them, a blazing heat could be felt. It was a volcano. This wasn't an ordinary volcano. The flames weren't ordinary flames, but the abyss of demons flames. When they stopped above the volcano, a strong murderous intent flashed in the depths of Lu Ming's eyes. This was because Lu Ming found a figure in each volcano. Lu Ming saw familiar figures. Supreme Nine Yang, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, there were a total of 5 people. Except for Supreme Nine Yang, the other 4 were all sovereigns of the Talisman Puppet sect. The 5 of them were each suppressed in a volcano. Their bodies were bound by chains and suspended in midair. Within the volcanoes, the pitch-black 9 underworlds devil flame danced and burned the 5 of them constantly. This kind of abyss of demons' flames wouldn't burn them to death immediately, but it would bring them endless pain. Moreover, the cultivation of Supreme Nine Yang and the other 4 had been sealed and they couldn't resist it. Lu Ming's eyes were as cold as a knife. Xia Jiuyang, today is the day of your death. The horse-faced emperor looked down at Xia Jiuyang and the others with a disdainful expression. Is that so? Your Xia clan and Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace won't be arrogant for long. When Lu Ming returns, it will be the day of your death. Xia Jiuyang, who was sitting in the volcano, looked up at the sky and said coldly. Lu Ming? He. The horse-faced emperor sneered and said with contempt, I don't mind telling you that Lu Ming has returned. What? Lu Ming has returned? Is it true? Zongzi has returned? Chapter 1339. Don't rejoice too early. Today is not only the day you die, but also Lu Ming. The horse-faced sovereign sneered. Lu Ming is also in your hands? Xia Jiuyang asked in a deep voice, a little worried. Not yet, but it will happen soon. The horse-faced sovereign smiled and continued, I heard that Lu Ming is a righteous person. If he knows that you are going to be executed today, will he rush to the sacred city to save you? As long as he comes, he will die. You, despicable. Despicable and shameless. You are using us. Don't even think about it. When Xia Jiuyang, Bai Shijin, and the others heard the horse-faced sovereign's words, how could they not know the conspiracy of the Xia family in Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace? They were obviously using them to lure Lu Ming over. Scream. No matter how loud you scream, it's useless. The horse-faced sovereign sneered. Seeing the anxious look on Xia Jiuyang and the others' faces, he felt extremely comfortable. At this moment, whoosh! Whoosh! In the distance, a series of violent air-rending sounds could be heard. Before the sound had died down, there were already figures appearing in the surroundings. The Masha clan. They were all members of the Masha clan. Each of them had a towering demonic aura as they stared coldly at the horse-faced sovereign and the others. The aura of these Masha clan members was extremely terrifying. They were stronger than any of the Masha clan members that Lu Ming had encountered before. The one leading them was exceptionally burly and had a towering demonic aura. The vast demonic aura was unfathomable. A demonic emperor. The one leading them was actually a demonic emperor, the sovereign of the Masha clan. The horse-faced sovereign's expression changed. Masha clan, what are you trying to do? The horse-faced sovereign shouted. Of course, we are here to kill you. The demonic emperor of the Masha clan said coldly. How dare you? Do you want to exterminate the clan? The horse-faced sovereign shouted. Exterminate the clan? If the Xia family could do that, my Masha clan would have been exterminated long ago. Would you be so kind as to spare us? The sovereign of the Masha clan mocked. Clang! Clang! At this moment, the sound of chains breaking could be heard from the bottom of the volcano. Immediately after, 5 powerful auras rushed out from 5 of the volcanoes, and 5 people rushed out of the volcanoes. It was Xia Jiuyang and the others. Xia Jiuyang's body was like a burning sun. The terrifying power of fire caused the temperature within tens of thousands of miles to rapidly rise. Emperor! Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The 9 Suns sovereign had actually broken through to the Emperor realm. Now, he should be called the 9 Suns sovereign. Lu Ming was pleasantly surprised. From the looks of it, they were not trapped at all and had taken the initiative to rush out of the volcano. You! How did you escape? The horse-faced emperor was shocked. Of course, with my help. Now, all of you can stay here. The emperor of the Masha clan said, his voice filled with killing intent. Let's go and spread the news. The horse-faced ruler suddenly shouted and turned to leave. Stay. The devil emperor of the Masha clan had been staring at the horse-faced divine emperor for a long time. As soon as the horse-faced divine emperor moved, the devil emperor of the Masha clan moved as well. He clawed out a sharp claw light toward the horse-faced divine emperor. Kill. The other members of the Masha clan also rushed towards the Xia family. Boom. On the other side, Xia Jiuyang and the others had also made their move. Xia Jiuyang threw out a punch that was like a sun, blasting toward the horse-faced divine emperor. The horse-faced divine emperor was shocked and tried his best to dodge. He did not dare to take Xia Jiuyang's punch head-on at all. At the same time, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the other 2 also launched an attack on the Xia family. Inscriptions appeared and the killing formation shone. Bai Shijin and the other 3 attacked, and the void was filled with terrifying killing formations. In an instant, a few people were killed. Lu Ming did not immediately reveal his true face. Anyway, Xia Jiuyang and the others had the upper hand now, so he was not in a hurry. His figure swayed in the void, silently dodging some of the attacks. 9 Suns Divine Fist. The flames on Xia Jiuyang's body became more and more turbulent. Vaguely, there were even shadows of 9 suns that appeared around his body. He threw out a punch that was like an exploding sun, blocking all the escape routes of the horse-faced divine emperor. The horse-faced divine emperor had no choice but to fight back. Boom! The 2 of them exchanged a blow. The horse-faced divine emperor's body shook violently, and he kept retreating. He spat out a mouthful of blood. He was no match for Xia Jiuyang at all. As soon as he retreated, the Masha clan's divine emperor's attack arrived. He could only desperately resist. The people brought by the horse-faced divine emperor were killed one after another. None of them could escape. Run, I must escape. The horse-faced divine emperor roared in his heart. His true ether seemed to be burning, and his domain covered his body. He blocked Xia Jiuyang's attack head-on. Although he spat out a large mouthful of blood and his body was almost burnt, he successfully rushed out of the encirclement and flew frantically toward the exit of the 9 underworlds. Oh no, we can't let him escape. Xia Jiuyang hurriedly chased after him. The Wuxia clan's divine emperor also quickly chased after him. Lu Ming's eyes flashed, and his figure disappeared from the crowd in a flash. Oh no, one of them escaped. Bai Shijin and Du Songjue's faces changed. The horse-faced divine emperor's speed was astonishing. At this time, he was running for his life, so he could be said to be extraordinary. In an instant, he traveled 1,000 miles. However, before he could escape 100,000 miles, inscriptions suddenly flickered in front of him, and a large formation appeared. In the large formation, 8 huge chains appeared and wrapped around the horse-faced divine emperor. Break! The horse-faced divine emperor's expression changed. He blasted a move at the chains, but his attack only caused a vibration and did not break the chains. How could this be? The horse-faced divine emperor was shocked. Even he could not break it. This large formation was obviously set up by a divine emperor. How could there be another divine emperor stopping him? In the next moment, a figure appeared and blocked in front of the horse-faced divine emperor. Zhao Pe, it's you? No, you're not Zhao Pe. The horse-faced divine emperor was stunned at first, then he roared angrily. He was very familiar with Zhao Pe. It was impossible for him to set up a large formation that even he could not break. This person was not Zhao Pe at all. Whoosh! Whoosh! Behind him, Xia Jiuyang and the Wuxia clan's divine emperor had already caught up. Get lost! The horse-faced divine emperor roared and wanted to rush over from the other side, but there was also a large formation there. Chains covered the sky and blocked the horse-faced divine emperor. At this moment, Xia Jiuyang and the divine emperor of the Wuxia clan had caught up and surrounded the horse-faced divine emperor. Damn it! Who are you? The horse-faced divine emperor roared and stared at Lu Ming with killing intent. He wanted nothing more than to tear Lu Ming into pieces. If Lu Ming had not blocked him, he would definitely be able to escape. Xia Jiuyang and the divine emperor of the Wuxia clan also looked at Lu Ming curiously. Isn't Lu Ming with the horse-faced divine emperor? I didn't expect him to be able to stop the horse-faced divine emperor. What's more, he's clearly a divine emperor. If he's an enemy, it won't be good. Didn't you mention me just now? Lu Ming smiled, and then the shape of his face began to change, returning to his original appearance. You're Lu Ming. Chapter 1340. The horse-faced emperor's eyes widened as he stared at Lu Ming in disbelief. Lu Ming, it's actually Lu Ming. When did Lu Ming sneak in? You were here at that time. The horse-faced emperor remembered that when they were about to reach the entrance of the demon realm, he felt a slight fluctuation. When he checked, he did not find any traces. He thought that he was hallucinating, but now it seemed that Lu Ming had sneaked in at that time. Lu Ming waved his hand, and a corpse flew out. It was Zhao Pe. Lu Ming, why are you here? The most surprised person was none other than Xia Jiuyang. He looked at Lu Ming in surprise and disbelief. He could not believe that Lu Ming would appear here. What was even more unbelievable was Lu Ming's cultivation base. The auras emitted from Lu Ming's body were the aura of a level 9 inscriber and a ruler. Lu Ming has already broken through to become a ruler? No matter how much he valued Lu Ming, he still found it hard to believe. It had only been a short while, but Lu Ming had already broken through to become a ruler. Senior Jiuyang, how have you been? Lu Ming smiled. Lu Ming, you shouldn't have come. Xia Jiuyang thought of something and sighed. Let's kill this person first. Lu Ming looked at the horse-faced emperor. You want to kill me? Don't even think about it. Lu Ming, you're going deep into the holy city today. You'll definitely die. The horse-faced emperor roared and soared into the sky, wanting to escape from the sky. You won't be able to escape. Lu Ming said softly. At the same time, his body lit up, and a large formation appeared. Lu Ming stretched out 2 fingers, using them as a sword and slashing out. A sword chi appeared out of thin air and soared into the sky, slashing toward the horse-faced emperor. The horse-faced emperor was shocked and tried his best to resist. However, his domain could not withstand a single blow from the sword chi and was split open. The sword chi did not stop and continued to slash toward the horse-faced emperor. The horse-faced emperor screamed in pain as his body was split into 2 halves. The horse-faced emperor had fallen. This scene was witnessed by Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and a few other Masha clan experts who had caught up to them. Immediately, gasps could be heard from all of them. He killed a ruler with a single sword. What kind of combat power was that? Not only Bai Shijin and the others, but Xia Jiuyang and the emperor were also dumbfounded. Emperor Lu Ming emperor's face was calm. Ming Lian's second body had just broken through to become a ruler, but his combat power could not be calculated with common sense. Engraving the second body and cultivating the Tao of engraving, each level was perfect, and each level had to have 10 spirit lamps lit. Besides, his second body had inherited the inheritance of the heavenly arcana saint, who was a martial sage. Lu Ming's second body was astonishingly powerful, be it in terms of the control of mental strength or the inscription array that he had mastered. The killing formation he had carved in his body was even more powerful. Therefore, even though Immortal's second body had just become a martial emperor, his combat power was on par with his main body. He could easily fight against a peak second-layer martial emperor. With his strength, killing an ordinary first-layer martial dominator would be a piece of cake. Zong. Zongzi? Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others stammered as they stared at Lu Ming. They were speechless, as if they were dreaming. It was already incredible enough to see Lu Ming here. Moreover, Lu Ming's combat power was even more incredible. It was no wonder that they were stunned for a while. Senior Bai, Senior Du. Lu Ming smiled and brought his fists together to greet them. Zongzi, Zongzi, it's really you. You've become a LV9 inscriber? Huh, that's great, that's great. Our talisman puppet sect finally has a LV9 inscriber. Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others trembled in excitement and almost burst into tears. Lu Ming, why are you here? De and the Xia clan are trying to lure you here. Xia Jiuyang suddenly spoke, causing Bai Shijin and the others' hearts to skip a beat. Their expressions changed and the joy in their hearts disappeared. What was left was only worry. I know that. However, we still don't know who will win today. Then, Lu Ming briefly explained his plan to her. Alright, seniors, let's go out now. Lu Ming said. No. Suddenly, a voice was heard. It was the Masha clan's emperor. Why? Lu Ming looked at the Masha clan's emperor and a cold light flashed in his eyes. The Masha clan's emperor's expression changed. He was a little afraid of Lu Ming, but he still gritted his teeth and pointed at Xia Jiuyang and the others. They can't leave. This is the condition they agreed to. Condition? Lu Ming frowned. Lu Ming, it's like this, Xia Jiuyang immediately explained. It turned out that Xia Jiuyang and the others were able to escape because of the condition they had agreed to with the Masha clan. Xia Jiuyang and Bai Shijin had agreed to join the Masha clan and help them fight against the Xia clan for 500 years. In return, the Masha clan would remove the seal on Xia Jiuyang and the others. That was why the previous scene had happened. Lu Ming roughly understood what had happened after listening to the explanation. The Mo Sha clan had been trapped by the Xie family, and they had been constantly sending people to hunt them down. The overall strength of the Mo Sha clan wasn't as strong as the Xia family, so they could only hide in the demon area of the netherworld. The Ma Sha clan had their eyes on Xia Jiuyang and the others' strength. As long as Xia Jiuyang and the others joined the Ma Sha clan, their strength would increase greatly. They would have more confidence to fight against the Xia clan in the future, and the Ma Sha clan's days would be better. After thinking about it, Lu Ming smiled and said, "So it's because of this. The Ma Sha clan will never regain their freedom if you keep on defending like this. You've heard that I'm going to fight against the Xia clan. This is a chance for the Ma Sha clan. Why don't you come with me? As long as the Xia clan is destroyed, the Ma Sha clan will regain their freedom forever." Lu Ming's voice was full of temptation. The look in the Ma Sha clan's emperor's eyes changed. He seemed to be tempted, but in the end, he gritted his teeth and said, "Although you're strong, the Xia clan has a strong foundation. If you fight against the Xia clan, you'll only die." Apparently, the emperor of the Ma Sha clan didn't believe that Lu Ming could fight against the Xia family. Divine Emperor of Chaos Sky, Xiaofan. I believe you know him. He's my ally. I was the one who saved him from the 9 underworlds. Lu Ming's heart stirred as he said. What? Xiaofan is your ally? Will you be participating in this battle as well? The Ma Sha clan's emperor's eyes lit up. Not bad. Lu Ming nodded. Why should I believe you? He had to be careful because this was related to the survival of the Ma Sha clan. Following Lu Ming to the final battle was equivalent to putting the fate of the Ma Sha clan on the line. Do you believe her? Lu Ming's glabella glowed, and Xian Yinqing walked out from it. Lu Ming. Chapter 1341. I am the inheritor of Xiaofan. The heavenly demon bloodline appeared above Xian Yinqing's head, and a shocking demonic aura spread in all directions. The Xia family's bloodline, and this, such a strong demonic aura, such a pure demonic aura. The Ma Sha clan's royal clan was shocked. How about now? Lu Ming asked. All right, the Ma Sha clan will take a gamble. We'll go with you and fight the Xia family to the death. The Ma Sha clan's royal clan gritted his teeth and agreed. Great, let's not waste any more time. Let's go. Lu Ming was delighted. The Ma Sha clan's strength was not weak, and it increased their strength. Whoosh! 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 They flew toward the exit of the 9th Underworld's demon realm. Soon, the city at the exit of the 9th Underworld's demon realm was in sight. Above the city, there was a light shield that enveloped the entire city. Clang! Lu Ming pointed his finger like a sword and slashed out. A sword light cut through the void and slashed toward the city. The light shield on the city could not withstand Lu Ming's sword aura at all. It was slashed open. The remaining force of the sword aura did not stop and it almost split the entire city into two. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! Prepare for battle! There was an uproar in the city, and countless powerful auras rushed up. Kill! Lu Ming and the others rushed toward the city. On the platform above the sacred city, Xiachitian and the others had already taken their seats. In the north of the platform, there was a huge flag, tens of thousands of feet high, fluttering in the wind. This was their alliance flag. Xiachitian and the others were drinking wine and waiting. They were waiting for Xia Jiuyang and the others to be brought here and killed. At the same time, they were also waiting for Lu Ming's arrival. Suddenly, a voice transmission jade talisman appeared in Xiachitian's hand. He picked it up and his face changed. What's going on? Asked. Someone saved Xia Jiuyang and the others, and they're attacking the passage of the 9th Underworld's demon realm. Brother D, please wait here. I'll go and take them down. Xia Qitian got up and was about to lead the Xia clan's experts to the ninth underworld's demon realm. At this moment, figures appeared in the void outside the sacred city. Lu Ming, Xiaofan, Yan Kuangtu, and the barbarian emperor, and the experts of the divine army appeared on the other side. Now! Lu said suddenly. Boom! Lu Ming stepped out. Heaven and earth were roaring and the void was exploding. A pitch-black void passageway extended toward the sacred city. A light screen appeared in the sky above the holy city, but when it was hit by the void passage, it began to shake violently. Boom! On the other side, Xiaofan punched out, and a fist force smashed onto the light screen. Attack! The other rulers also attacked at the same time, including the powerhouses of the heaven-guarding divine army. At the same time, more than 20 rulers attacked together. The scene was earth-shattering. Bang! 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 Such a terrifying attack landed on the light screen, causing it to tremble violently. Crack! In the end, the light barrier couldn't take it anymore. Cracks appeared on it, spreading out like a spider web. Finally, with a bang, it exploded. Inside the holy city, just as Xia Qitian was about to take his people to the underworld demon domain, an earth-shattering rumble suddenly sounded in the sky. It was as if thousands of heavenly thunders were exploding, as if the world was going to collapse and the end of the world was coming. What happened? In the holy city, countless people looked up at the sky with horrified expressions. In the sky, there was an irresistible pressure spreading down, making everyone feel as if a great disaster was about to befall them. They're finally here. De looked up at the sky. You came at the right time. Xia Qitian also looked up at the sky with cold eyes. Kacha! Boom! Suddenly, the sky rumbled violently. Numerous pitch-black spatial rifts appeared in the sky. The scene was spectacular and shocking. Then, one figure after another stepped out from those cracks. Every single one of them emitted an earth-shattering aura, as if they were the masters of the world. Lu Ming, that's Lu Ming. And Xiaofan. Someone in the holy city roared. The two people in the lead were Lu Ming and Xiaofan. Lu Ming was the most powerful genius among the younger generation. At such a young age, he was able to kill an emperor and fight with a peak level 2 martial royal realm expert. He was a peerless genius and had never been seen before. Xiaofan was the peerless expert of the ancient Saint Court Xia family. 30,000 years ago, he had single-handedly stirred up a storm in the world, causing the extremely powerful ancient Saint Court Xia family to plummet and lose control of the world. This had caused the world to be filled with experts fighting for supremacy. The two of them were the most powerful people in the divine region. At this moment, the two of them had come together. Boom! 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 Terrifying auras shot up into the sky. De and the Emperor of Emperor Deity Palace released their auras and shot up into the sky, standing in the air with Lu Ming, Xiaofan, and the others. Among them, De and the two elders beside him had the most terrifying auras, as if they were the masters of the world. Just the three of them had auras that surpassed Lu Ming and the others. Lu Ming, Xiaofan, since you're here today, stay here forever. The elder in the golden robe said, his killing intent cold. Not necessarily. Boom! On the other side, an old voice came from a crack in the space. Following which, more than 10 figures stepped out. They were the experts of the divine army. The moment the experts of the divine army appeared, their auras merged with Lu Ming and the others. Alright, since you're all here, let's settle this once and for all. Xia Qitian roared. The experts of the Xia family also shot up into the sky, joining De and the others. Boom! The two sides added up to about 50 emperors. Their auras clashed, causing the entire holy city to shake. Below, in the holy city, countless people found it difficult to resist such pressure. It was as if they were facing the masters of the world. They could not help but kneel down, trembling in fear. Buzz! Buzz! At this moment, the entire holy city let out buzzing sounds as countless rays of light lit up. In the holy city, countless buildings and streets were covered with inscriptions, forming a large array that protected the holy city. The holy city had been passed down for millions of years. After being supported by generations of saint emperors, it could be said that the entire holy city was covered with inscriptions and was indestructible. The inscriptions filled the air and the large array appeared. Only then did the people in the holy city feel less pressured. Huff, 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 many people let out a long breath and realized that their bodies were drenched in cold sweat. The scene of dozens of emperors confronting each other was too terrifying. In the history of the divine wilderness continent, it had only happened a few times. Today, I'm afraid the world will fall apart. Someone sighed, knowing that an earth-shattering battle would happen today. Lu Ming, even if you're here, you won't be able to save Xia Zheoyang today. He must die today. Di Yi's voice was heard. He looked at Lu Ming with a cold gaze. Is that so? A clear voice was heard, but it was not Lu Ming's main body that spoke. Instead, it came from another direction. The sound of something breaking through the air was heard. Figures flew over and revealed themselves. That's Lu Ming, another Lu Ming. Chapter 1342. There were two Lu Ming. Everyone was stunned. Some people scanned with their spiritual senses and found that the two Lu Ming's auras were exactly the same. The only difference was that one of the Lu Ming's aura was the aura of martial arts. The other was the way of inscription. There were two Lu Mings. What was going on? How was this possible? Many people were confused. They looked at each other. Lu Ming, it's you. It seems that you were the one who made a scene in the drunken immortal garden. Xie Qitian's pupils shrank as he spoke. There were countless wonderful techniques in the world. Perhaps Lu Ming had cultivated a certain kind of wonderful technique. That was why he had two clones that were similar to the cloning technique. Di was the calmest. He had guessed that Lu Ming had a similar secret technique. Back then, he had sensed that Lu Ming was in the Talisman Puppet sect, but Lu Ming had appeared in the Middle Continent's sacred city. Because of this, he made the wrong judgment and gave Lu Ming a few more years to cultivate. Otherwise, how could Lu Ming have grown to this level? Who else could it be? Lu Ming smiled faintly. Killing intent flashed in Xie Qitian's eyes. Many geniuses had died in the drunken immortal garden. Even Xie Zhen had become an idiot. These days, he had been hunting for the murderer. He did not expect that the murderer was Lu Ming, who had sneaked into the Ninth Serenity and rescued Xia Zheoyang and the others. His gaze swept past Lu Ming and fell on Xian Yanqing. Xie Qitian's eyes became colder. Xian Yanqing, how dare you show up here? You are a traitor of the Xie family. How dare you help an outsider against the Xie family? A person walked out from the platform and stared at Xian Yanqing. This person was Xie Qitian's younger brother, Xie Qiyu. Huh, traitor? Help an outsider? How ridiculous. The Xie family treated me like this. I have nothing to do with the Xie family. In my opinion, the Xie family is the outsider. Xian Yanqing sneered and looked at Xie Qiyu mockingly. Impudent. Xian Yanqing, let me tell you, you were born as a member of the Xie family, and you'll die as a ghost of the Xie family. You'll have to listen to the orders of the Xie family. If you don't listen, you'll be betraying your ancestors. Xie Qiyu shouted. Huh, how ridiculous, how shameless. By the side, Xiao Wan laughed loudly. His gaze swept across the Xie clan members in disdain as he said, according to your logic, even if you are bullied, you cannot resist? And to be obedient? That's because you have a servile nature. Once you meet an expert, you can only become a slave. Such a clan is rotten to the core. What do you want it for? Why not destroy them? Many members of the Xia family turned pale and looked at Xiaofan angrily. However, no one dared to speak. Xia Qiu's face was cold, but he didn't dare to speak in front of Xiaofan. He could only target Xia Nianqing and shouted, "Xia Nianqing, your father is here, and your elders. If you don't kowtow and admit your wrongs now, perhaps they will spare your life." Bam! 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 As soon as Xia Qiu finished speaking, Xia Nianqing took a step forward. She stepped through the air, causing the air to rumble with her steps. Xia Nianqing landed on the platform and said, "I'm right here. If you have the ability, you can send someone to capture me." This was a challenge. Xia Nianqing challenged the Xia family. The members of the Xia family were silent. Send someone to take down Xia Nianqing? Who should they send? Xia Nianqing was from the younger generation. They could not send an old man who had cultivated for thousands of years, right? However, who in the younger generation of the Xia family was a match for Xia Nianqing? Xia Nianjuan used to be there. However, Xia Nianjuan was not here now. After a while, no one made a move. You don't have to send someone from the younger generation. Regardless of your generation, you can attack. Xia Nianqing said. Regardless of your generation, you can attack. His words were like a slap to the faces of the Xia family. This was undoubtedly a mockery. A person who was regarded as a rebel by the Xia family was invincible among the younger generation. No one could even send someone to attack him. This made many members of the Xia family blush. This brat is doing it on purpose. She wants to embarrass the Xia family. Xia Qiu roared in his heart. Xia Nianqing, I'm here to take you down. A tall and slender man stepped out. This person looked to be almost 40 years old. However, he was actually 50 or 60 years old. He was 2 generations older than Lu Ming and the others. Bang! This person landed in front of Xia Nianqing. A powerful aura broke out of his body. 8th level spirit god. Xia Nianqing, surrender. The muscular man stretched out his hand. His majestic true essence condensed into a large hand and grabbed at Xia Nianqing. Since you attacked, you should be prepared to be killed. Xia Nianqing said. His voice was as cold as his gaze. His slender hand pressed forward lightly. The sky demon force field pressed down on the muscular man. Boom! The muscular man did not even have time to scream before his body suddenly exploded. Then, he turned into ashes and dust in the sky demon force field. So strong. Many people's hearts trembled. An 8th level spirit god expert was killed in one move. An 8th level spirit god expert was turned into ashes in one move. So strong. Experts gathered at the scene. Any supreme or emperor could easily do this. However, how old was Xia Nianqing? He was only in his 20s. Xia Nianqing had been with Lu Ming. Lu Ming's performance was too dazzling, causing everyone to overlook Xia Nianqing's existence. However, everyone had no choice but to re-evaluate Xia Nianqing now. At his age, there were not many people who could turn an 8th level spirit god expert into ashes in one move. How can he be so strong? He's just an anomaly. In the crowd, Xia Yan, Xia Nianlin, and the other Xia clan geniuses were pale. Xia Nianqing's action was the biggest blow to the Xia clan's younger generation. In the past, Xia Nianqing was just an anomaly in their eyes. However, this anomaly had far surpassed them and left them in the dust. They found it hard to accept. Xia clan, who else wants to attack? Xia Nianqing's cold voice sounded. The Xia clan was silent. Who else wanted to attack? An 8th-level spirit god expert was turned into ashes in one move. Xia Nianqing's battle prowess had at least reached the great circle of the spirit god realm. Could it be that the Xia clan had to send out a supreme to deal with a junior? Audacious. Impudent. What a ruthless method to kill a fellow clansman. Today, I must teach you a good lesson. With a loud shout, Xia Qiyu took a step forward. The aura of a supreme pressed down on Xia Nianqing. A supreme who has cultivated for thousands of years is attacking a junior and speaking in such a dignified manner. How shameless. Lu Ming sneered. His voice sounded from afar. Xia Qiyu's face was burning. He couldn't be bothered to pay attention to Lu Ming's words. He approached Xia Nianqing step by step. Kneel. Suddenly, Xia Qiyu shouted. The aura on his body burst out violently, forming a terrifying pressure that pressed down on Xia Nianqing. Chapter 1343. But Xia Nianqing was like a cool breeze. He didn't feel anything at all. Even his clothes didn't flutter. You're the one who's kneeling. Xia Nianqing pressed her hand forward and the heavenly demon force field erupted, enveloping Xia Qiyu. The heavenly demon force field's powerful force field and terrifying destructive power instantly pressed down on Xia Qiyu. Crack. Xia Qiyu's expression changed drastically. He felt as if hundreds of mountains were pressing down on him. His body suddenly trembled and he almost knelt down. Break! Xia Qiyu roared and cast the embryonic form of his domain to resist the heavenly demon force field. The demonic aura on Xia Nianqing's body became denser. A round bead vaguely appeared between her eyebrows. At this moment, the power of her heavenly demon force field was instantly raised to the extreme. Xia Nianqing pressed her hand forward again. Boom! The embryonic form of Xia Qiyu's domain collapsed. He roared and knelt down in front of everyone's shocked eyes. Bang! Xia Qiyu knelt down heavily on the platform in front of Xia Nianqing. Ah! Xia Qiyu roared and struggled madly. His face turned the color of pig liver. As a chosen, it was already a great loss of face for him to act against a junior. But in the end, not only had he failed to take down Xia Nianqing, he hadn't even started fighting. Instead, he had been forced to kneel in front of Xia Nianqing in front of countless people. This was a great humiliation. It was worse than killing him. He was angry, he roared, he struggled, but it was useless in front of Xia Nianqing's heavenly demon force field. Xia Nianqing had obtained the inheritance of a supreme figure of the demonic Tao. His demonic Tao cultivation was incomparably pure and powerful. Moreover, Xia Nianqing's cultivation had already reached the great circle of the spirit god realm. Killing an ordinary supreme being was a piece of cake to him. Xia Qiyu didn't have much power to resist in front of Xia Nianqing. Kill! Xia Nianqing shouted. Her eyes were cold. She took a step forward and slashed at Xia Qiyu with her fingers like a sword. Some black lotus petals appeared at her fingertips, condensing into a lotus sword. Impudent! You dare? In the sky, a white-haired old man shouted angrily. He stepped out and charged toward Xia Nianqing. The pressure of an emperor pressed down on Xia Nianqing. This was an emperor of the Xia family. Boom! At the same time, the white-haired ruler struck out with his palm. A palm print as big as a mountain blasted toward Xia Nianqing. Xia Nianqing's expression changed. With her strength, she could easily kill an ordinary supreme being, but there was still a gap between her and a ruler. Just as Xia Nianqing was about to abandon Xia Qiyu to block the attack, a voice rang in her ears. Then, the lotus sword in her hand did not stop, slashing toward Xia Qiyu. No! Xia Qiyu roared in horror. Evil creature! How dare you! Above, Xia Qitian and the white-haired ruler roared. The white-haired ruler's palm print emitted a dazzling light, and its power was even more terrifying as it blasted towards Xia Nianqing. A dignified ruler actually joined forces with others to deal with a junior. How shameless! I'll be your opponent. A clear voice sounded. In front of the white-haired old man, a young figure suddenly appeared. It was Lu Ming's second body. Lu Ming's second body pointed his fingers like a sword. A sword light appeared and slashed out. The sword light easily split the white-haired old man's palm print into two halves. The sword light did not stop and continued to slash toward the white-haired ruler. Ah! Below, a scream was heard, and then it stopped abruptly. Blood spurted out, and Xia Qiyu's head flew far away. His spiritual deity flew out, but it was also turned into ashes under the destructive power of the heavenly demon force field. Ah! Before Xia Qiyu's body fell, a scream came from the sky above. The white-haired ruler's body retreated frantically. His face was pale, and one of his arms had disappeared. His eyes were filled with horror. If he had not retreated quickly just now, his entire body would have been split in half by Lu Ming. Kill! Lu Ming stepped forward. His long robe fluttered, and his killing intent was like a tide. Sword chi flickered from his fingers as he slashed toward the white-haired old man again. The power of this sword strike was terrifying and earth-shattering. The entire sky was split open by this sword strike. The terrifying sword power not only shocked the white-haired old man, but even the other rulers of the Xia family were shocked. They wanted to help, but it was too late. Whoosh! Suddenly, a milky white holy light condensed into a spear. It pierced through the void and shot toward Lu Ming. The terrifying power made Lu Ming's gaze freeze. The sword chi in his hand also changed its direction and slashed toward the holy light spear. Clang! A deafening collision sound was heard. The sword chi and the spear dissipated at the same time. Lu Ming's second body looked up at the sky. A gray-haired old man walked out from the dozen rulers of the Xia family. Holy light kept jumping in his hand, and another spear was condensed. Peak of the second level of the martial royal realm. An emperor from the heaven-suppressing divine army said in a solemn voice. This gray-haired old man was actually a peak expert of the second level of the martial royal realm. Xia Zhangqiong, he's Xia Zhangqiong. Someone exclaimed as they recognized this person. It's him. Everyone who heard this person's name was shocked. Xia Zhangqiong was the younger brother of the previous saint emperor of the Xia family, and Xia Qitian's uncle. This person was amazing, and his talent was even greater than the previous saint emperor. However, it was rumored that after he became a ruler, he went overseas to seek the Great Way. Many people thought that he had died overseas, but they did not expect him to still be alive and guarding Holy City. The secret strength of the Xia family was indeed amazing. It's true that there are talents in every generation. Lu Ming, your talent is unprecedented. Let me be your opponent. The holy light spear in Xia Zhangqiong's hand became brighter and brighter, piercing the sky. Xia Zhangqiong, your opponent should be me. At this time, the old commander of the heaven-suppressing divine army laughed. His aura burst out, and his eyes were full of fighting spirit. He stepped out into the void, and his aura locked on to Xia Zhangqiong. Xia Zhangqiong's face changed. The old commander's cultivation was also at the peak of the second level of the martial royal realm, and he was not weaker than him. He dared not be careless. Heaven-suppressing divine army, all traitors will be executed today. Xia Qitian shouted coldly, and his aura burst out. Boom! 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 Over a dozen rulers of the Xia family released their auras and suppressed the heaven-suppressing divine army. The heaven-suppressing divine army did not show any weakness. More than a dozen rulers released their auras and confronted the rulers of the Xie family. The atmosphere was tense, and a battle was about to break out. Clang! A golden sword light shot up into the sky. Even among the auras of the rulers, it was still dazzling and outstanding. It was De. He looked at Lu Ming with a murderous look and said, "Lu Ming, it's time to deal with you." De's powerful aura suppressed Lu Ming. Bang! Xiaofan stepped out, and his demonic qi was like a rainbow. His voice rang out, "De, your opponent is me." However, a golden figure appeared in front of Xiaofan and blocked him. Xiaofan, the previous battle was not decided. Let's continue today. Chapter 1344. A battle was about to break out. At that moment, a voice rang out from afar. "De, let's fight." Whoosh! A figure appeared in front of Lu Ming and confronted De. It was Xia Jiuyang, the Nine Suns sovereign. Xia Jiuyang's entire body was bathed in flames, like a blazing sun. "Xia Jiuyang, you want to fight me? Huh, although you've broken through to the martial royal realm, you're still far from being able to fight me." De smiled indifferently. "De, the moment you tried to kill me, we had nothing to do with each other. I've already repaid what I owed you, but you haven't repaid what you owed me. You and I must fight. If we don't fight today, we won't have another chance in the future." Xia Jiuyang said. "Won't have another chance in the future? Xia Jiuyang, you know your place. You know you're going to die today." De sneered. Xia Jiuyang shook his head and said, "What I mean is, you're the one who will die today, so we won't have another chance in the future. I'm the one who will die." "Ha ha ha, how ridiculous. Xia Jiuyang, since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." De laughed and stepped forward. Golden light burst out from his body, and the golden sword qi was even more powerful. Lu Ming did not stop him. Lu Ming knew that Xia Jiuyang had a knot in his heart, and that was De. He and De had to fight. Regardless of victory or defeat, they had to fight. Otherwise, it would be difficult for Xia Jiuyang to break the knot in his heart, and it would be difficult for his cultivation to improve in the future. "Master, catch the tower." Yan Kuangtu waved his hand and the Emperor's spirit tower flew toward Xia Jiuyang. Xia Jiuyang raised his hand and caught the Emperor's spirit tower. The Emperor's spirit tower vibrated slightly, as if resonating with Xia Jiuyang. A circle of territory bloomed and merged with Xia Jiuyang. The Emperor's spirit tower was a fire-based royal spiritual weapon. Xia Jiuyang had awakened the Nine Suns bloodline. Now that he had broken through to the royal realm and cultivated the Nine Suns' divine body, his body was covered in the divine fire of the sun. Once the Emperor's spirit tower was in Xia Jiuyang's hands, it connected with his mind and was to be controlled by him. Of course, this was because Yan Kuangtu could not control it. After all, the Emperor's spirit tower was first refined by Yan Kuangtu. If Yan Kuangtu had deliberately controlled it, Xia Jiuyang would not have been able to use it. "Xia Jiuyang, so what if you have another Emperor-tier spirit weapon? Do you think you can contend against me?" "Kill!" De shouted coldly. His palm was like a sword as he slashed down. A golden sword radiance slashed toward Xia Jiuyang. Nine Suns' divine fist. An even more shocking flame erupted from Xia Jiuyang's body. It was as if the sun was burning. Boom! 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 Xia Jiuyang threw out 9 punches in a row. 9 streams of fist strength, like 9 suns, rushed toward De. The golden sword light slashed down, and the 9 sun-like fist forces were shattered one by one. Wang! The Emperor's spirit tower shook and turned into the size of a mountain, smashing toward De. Boom! De's sword qi struck the Emperor's spirit tower, and both of them collapsed. Again. Xia Jiuyang roared. His domain spread out and merged with the domain of the Emperor's Spirit Pagoda. The power of the Emperor's Spirit Pagoda became even stronger, several times stronger than when it was in the hands of Yan Kuangtu. It once again smashed towards De. Emperor's sword. De's eyes were cold. His sword qi whistled. A golden sword qi, like an emperor's sword, rushed out, filled with supreme majesty, as if everyone had to kneel down. The power of this sword was amazing. De began to show his strength at the peak of LV2 martial royal realm. Clang! The sword struck the Emperor's Spirit Pagoda. The Emperor's Spirit Pagoda shook violently and was sent flying by the sword radiance. Xia Jiuyang's body also shook and he took 9 steps back. After all, Xia Jiuyang's cultivation was only at LV1 martial royal realm, and he had just broken through. The gap between him and De was too big. Even if he had a royal spiritual weapon, he was no match for De. Emperor's sword, break the world. The sword qi rushed to the sky and slashed toward Xia Jiuyang again. Xia Jiuyang continued to resist with the Emperor's Spirit Pagoda. Clang! The sword qi struck the Emperor's Spirit Pagoda. The Emperor's Spirit Pagoda shook even more violently and was sent flying. This sword will kill you. De's cold voice rang out. He struck out with his sword toward Xia Jiuyang's head. Master! Yan Kuangtu turned pale with fright. Lu Ming's eyes also showed a dignified look, but he did not help. Just as De's sword qi was about to hit Xia Jiuyang, a stone flew out from between Xia Jiuyang's eyebrows. As soon as the stone flew out, Xia Jiuyang's aura soared. He punched out and hit De's sword qi. Boom! With a shocking roar, the sword qi was defeated. That's the Divine Sun Stone? It's really the Divine Sun Stone. Many sovereigns stared at the stone between Xia Jiuyang's eyebrows and exclaimed. Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile. Yes, the stone between Xia Jiuyang's eyebrows was the Divine Sun Stone. Lu Ming had cut it out from the ancient mine of the Divine Ruins during the Mu family stone gambling event on the Divine Ruins continent. The Divine Sun Stone was produced from the core of the sun. It was a perfect match for Xia Jiuyang's constitution. Lu Ming had given the Divine Sun Stone to Xia Jiuyang when they had broken out of the 9 underworlds. Xia Jiuyang was very shocked. He had wanted to refuse it. After all, it was too precious. However, Lu Ming had said that he would talk about it after this battle, so Xia Jiuyang had accepted it. The Divine Sun Stone was indeed a perfect match for Xia Jiuyang's constitution. Xia Jiuyang had refined it slightly and it had merged perfectly with him. Once the Divine Sun Stone appeared, Xia Jiuyang's cultivation soared temporarily with the help of the Divine Sun Stone's power. He had reached the 2nd level of the martial royal realm. De's eyes shone with a cold light. Like 2 sword qi, they pierced toward Xia Jiuyang. So what if you have the Divine Sun Stone? You'll still die. De's voice rang out. Sword qi whistled and charged toward Xia Jiuyang. Xia Jiuyang controlled the Emperor's Spirit Pagoda and smashed it toward De. Divine Fist of the 9 Suns. Xia Jiuyang roared. His body glowed. Then, 9 suns appeared from his body. Kill! Xia Jiuyang charged toward De, his fists constantly bombarding De. Boom! Boom! There was an uproar in the sky. The 2 men engaged in a fierce battle. The scene was extremely shocking. For a moment, there was no clear winner. Gosh, they're really too strong. With such power, if they landed on the ground, they could pierce through the earth, right? In Sacred City, countless martial artists looked up at the sky, their eyes filled with deep shock. The power of a martial royal realm expert's attack was already terrifying enough, let alone a battle of De's level. The entire sacred city was glowing. Inscriptions appeared in every corner, forming a light screen. Occasionally, a strong qi would fall from above, but it was blocked by the light screen. Otherwise, the entire sacred city would be destroyed. Xia Jiuyang can actually fight with De? Some of the onlooking sovereigns were horrified. Xia Jiuyang's combat strength was beyond imagination. Even if Xia Jiuyang had a martial royal spiritual weapon, his cultivation was only at the early stage of the first level of the martial royal realm. An ordinary martial royal realm expert could not fight with De even if he controlled a martial royal spiritual weapon. Chapter 1345. Xia Jiuyang's spiritual body is extremely powerful. I'm afraid it's not an ordinary spiritual body. Yes, Xia Jiuyang's spiritual body is the rare Nine Suns divine body. It's not an ordinary spiritual body. Some sovereigns discussed. In the sky, Martial Emperor De and Xia Jiuyang had exchanged dozens of blows in the blink of an eye. The more Martial Emperor De fought, the colder his eyes became, and the stronger his killing intent became. Die, evil disciple! Suddenly, De roared. A golden battle sword appeared in his hand, and the sword qi suddenly soared. Emperor's spiritual weapon. Lu Ming's pupils suddenly shrank. The battle sword in De's hand was undoubtedly an emperor's spiritual weapon. De finally took out an emperor's spiritual weapon. What shocked Lu Ming was that the emperor's spiritual weapon in De's hand was very similar to the one that De Hongqing had taken out. It seemed to be the same kind of emperor's spiritual weapon. Clang! De's sword slashed the emperor's spiritual tower and sent it flying. Then, the battle sword slashed at Xia Jiuyang. After all, Xia Jiuyang's cultivation was much lower than De's. After De took out the emperor's spiritual weapon, he was no match for him. He was sent flying and vomited blood. He was seriously injured. Master! Yan Kuangtu was shocked. Kill! De held the emperor's spiritual weapon battle sword in his hand. His killing intent was as cold as a knife, and he attacked Xia Jiuyang. He wanted to take Xia Jiuyang's life with this sword. Whoosh! At this time, Lu Ming rushed out. In the process, the 9 dragon forces in his body burst out. At the same time, the 9 dragons' bloodline and the 3rd bloodline appeared at the same time. Lu Ming transformed into 9 dragons. He twisted his body and pounced on De, clawing at him. The dragon claw was covered with the chaotic essence. Lu Ming used almost all of his strength in this move. Lu Ming, if you want to save him, I'll kill you first. De shouted coldly. The battle sword did not stop and slashed at Lu Ming. Boom! Lu Ming's dragon claw grabbed the battle sword. Lu Ming felt a terrifying sword qi that was incomparably sharp, as if it could destroy everything in the world. The dragon claw's concept of primal chaos violently vibrated. In the end, it was actually slashed apart. The terrifying sword qi pierced through the concept of primal chaos and landed on the 9 dragons. Whoosh! The massive body of the 9 dragons was sent flying for 100 miles before it came to a stop. Its body was covered with sword scars. De controlled the Emperor's spirit weapon and slashed with all his strength. Its power was truly terrifying. Lu Ming used all his strength and was barely able to block it. However, the body of the 9 dragons' bloodline was covered with wounds and almost collapsed. Circulating his bloodline power, the 9 dragons' wounds quickly healed. Lu Ming, I told you, you can't save me. De's eyes were cold. Holding his battle sword, he continued to attack Xia Jiuyang. Roar! The 9 dragons roared, wanting to rescue him again. Whoosh! A red-robed old man appeared in front of Lu Ming and slashed his sword at Lu Ming. Your opponent is me. The red-robed old man was another peak level 2 martial royal realm expert beside DE. When he attacked, his power was shocking. If you want to win with numbers, kill. On the other side, the barbarian emperor, Chu Luo, and the others shouted and attacked the red-robed old man. If you want to fight, I'll accompany you. Kill. The emperors of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace also attacked the barbarian emperor and the others. Damn it, let's fight. Fight. Boom. 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 A chaotic battle broke out. The emperors of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Northern Plains started to fight. Each of them chose an opponent and flew into the sky to fight. Clang. Xiaofan and Di Hongqing also attacked. A ray of saber light and a ray of sword light almost tore the sky apart. The two of them fought in the sky while the others stayed far away. Attack. On the other side, the Heaven Suppression Army and the Xia family's rulers also made their moves. They were engaged in a chaotic battle. The old general and Xia Zhangqiong started to fight fiercely. As for the 100 Battles martial emperor, he fought the old sacred emperor. Boom. 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 The sky above the holy city was in chaos. Dozens of emperors attacked, and a destructive aura spread out for millions of miles. In the holy city, if not for the protection of the inscription array and the fact that the emperors flew into the sky to fight and deliberately avoided the holy city would have been destroyed. Even so, the destructive aura was too terrifying. Countless people in the holy city trembled and knelt down. Even some of the supreme beings were pale. Such a battle was too shocking. Even the supreme beings could not interfere. Once they were involved, they would be turned into ashes in an instant. Yan Kuangtu, Xian Yanqing, and the others raised their heads and looked worried. They wanted to interfere, but they realized that they could not. They could only watch. The supreme beings did not make a move. They just looked at the sky. They understood that the battle between the sovereigns in the sky was the battle that would determine the situation of the divine wilderness. Whichever side sovereign won would be the victor. Boom! The 9 dragons' dragon claw clashed with the red-robed old man. They were evenly matched. Lu Ming, I'll kill Xia Jiuyang first and then you. Today, no one can save you. De sneered. The situation was clear. They had the upper hand with their peak combat strength. He and the red-robed old man were invincible. De stepped forward and attacked Xia Jiuyang. Let's fight to the death. Xia Jiuyang shouted. He planned to fight De with his injured body. Tu Qian. At that moment, Lu Ming's glabella shone and a burly figure appeared. He held a huge battle axe and chopped at De. The power was shocking. De's pupils shrank. He did not have time to deal with Xia Jiuyang. He waved his sword and clashed with the battle axe. Clang! Tu Qian and De's bodies shook and they retreated. Peak of the second level of the martial royal realm? An emperor's spiritual weapon? No, it's a puppet. Lu Ming, why do you have such a powerful puppet? De's spiritual consciousness swept over Tu Qian and he roared in disbelief. Lu Ming actually had such a powerful puppet with him. Tu Qian did not say a word. He raised his battle axe and attacked De. Clang! De could only fight with Tu Qian. Tu Qian also controlled an emperor's spiritual weapon. He was not weaker than De. They fought fiercely. Xia Jiuyang's body was covered in flames. The power of the divine sunstone kept flowing into his body. His injured body was recovering quickly. Damn it, I'll kill you first. The red-robed old man shouted. A golden battle axe appeared in his hand. An emperor's spiritual weapon. This battle axe was almost the same as the one in De and Di Hongqing's hands. This emperor's spiritual weapon seemed to come in a set. Lu Ming was even more certain that Di Yi's background was extraordinary. Di Yi's background was mysterious. He seemed to have appeared suddenly 10,000 years ago. Who can you kill? Just as the red-robed old man took out his emperor's spiritual weapon and was about to attack Lu Ming, a clear voice sounded behind him. A terrifying sword chi slashed at the red-robed old man. The red-robed old man was shocked. He quickly turned around and slashed with his sword to disperse the sword chi. Lu Ming. The red-robed old man's pupils shrank and his face changed. The person behind him was also Lu Ming. Chapter 1346. Old man, the battle between you and me has just begun. Lu Ming's voice came out of the nine dragons' mouth. Then, a thunder cauldron appeared and rapidly grew in size, smashing toward the red-robed elder. Roar! The nine dragons twisted their bodies and the chaotic will spread out. They used the suppressing hell-heaven skill and the nine dragon claws grabbed toward the red-robed elder. At the same time, Ming Lian's second body also moved. He took a step forward and endless inscriptions appeared in the void. More than a dozen large formations appeared at the same time and more than 100 huge chains were formed, wrapping around the red-robed elder. Break! The red-robed elder struck out with his palm and sent the thunder cauldron flying. At the same time, he slashed out with his golden battle sword and broke the 100 chains. But then, the nine dragons attacked. The nine dragon claws were filled with chaotic light and crushed the space. The red-robed elder was shocked by their power. Whoosh! Whoosh! Sword chi whistled and mysterious runes appeared on the body of Ming Lian's second body, forming a terrifying killing formation. The second body flicked out 9 rays of sword chi. Each ray of sword chi was so powerful that the red-robed elder was terrified. Lu Ming's main body and second body had the same consciousness and worked together seamlessly. The red-robed elder's pupils contracted. He controlled the emperor's spiritual weapon and slashed out dozens of rays of sword chi, covering his body. Although the emperor's spiritual weapon was powerful, its power was greatly reduced when it slashed out dozens of rays of sword chi. Boom! The nine dragons' claws slashed down and destroyed more than a dozen rays of sword chi. On the other side, the sword chi slashed out by the second body also collided with more than a dozen rays of sword chi and dissipated. But as soon as the sword chi dissipated, large formations appeared in the sky. This time, there were large formations to trap the enemy and also large formations to attack. The dense light flooded toward the red-robed elder. The red-robed elder could only fight back. For a moment, the red-robed elder was completely passive. Lu Ming's main body and second body were equivalent to the peak of the second-layer martial royal realm, which was the same as the red-robed elder. But when the main body and second body worked together, it was not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. The combination of the two of them, one in the martial Tao and the other in the Tao of inscription, was flawless. Various techniques to trap and attack the enemy were like a storm that poured down towards the enemy, causing the enemy to have no chance to catch their breath at all. Even though the red-robed elder was controlling the emperor-rank spirit weapon, he was unable to form an effective counterattack. Under Lu Ming's storm-like attacks, he could only protect himself. This caused many spectators to be shocked. The two Lu Mings teaming up were able to suppress a second-layer martial dominator realm expert with a martial dominator weapon. On the other side, Tu Qian did not care about his own life. He launched a crazy attack and entangled De. At this time, Xia Jiuyang's injuries were almost healed. He joined the battle group and attacked De together with Tu Qian. The battle situation fell into a state of anxiety for a moment. The two sides fought fiercely, and for a moment, it was hard to tell which side would win. Qi. Just as Lu Ming and the red-robed old man were engaged in a fierce battle, the sound of something breaking through the air came from behind Lu Ming's main body. Then, a black sword radiance broke the space and suddenly appeared behind 9 dragons. The sword pierced toward 9 dragons. This was very sudden. When the sword radiance came, there was almost no fluctuation. Its speed was shockingly fast. 9 dragons wanted to dodge, but it was too late. Puff! The black sword radiance pierced 9 dragons' body. The terrifying sword chi surged wantonly. At the same time, a figure wrapped in a black robe appeared. This person was thin and pale. His face was ferocious. Die, Lu Ming. Die. How dare you kill my son, Ming Zi? Go to hell. This person roared with a ferocious face. Bang! The 9 dragons' bodies began to crumble. But before the black-robed man could rejoice, a steel appeared. An aura stronger than the 9 dragons' bloodline burst out. The suppressing prison steel's bloodline. Boom! The suppressing prison steel's bloodline shook and hit the black-robed man. At the critical moment, the black-robed man blocked with the black sword in his hand. But his body was still shaken. He was sent flying and vomited blood. First Emperor of the Netherworld, you are courting death. Lu Ming's voice was filled with killing intent from the suppressing prison steel's bloodline. This black-robed man was the first Emperor of the Netherworld. He was very powerful and had reached LV2 martial royal realm. However, he was only in the early stage of LV2 martial royal realm. Moreover, he did not have a martial royal spiritual weapon. Lu Ming was not worried. Swoosh! At this moment, the red-robed elder finally seized the opportunity and slashed out with his sword. The sword chi hit the bottom of the suppressing prison steel's bloodline. That was where the suppressing prison steel's bloodline was. It was indestructible. Clang! The suppressing prison steel's bloodline shook. With the help of the red-robed elder's strength, it flew far away in the direction of the first Emperor of the Netherworld. The first Emperor of the Netherworld was shocked and wanted to escape. However, a large array suddenly appeared in the void in front of him. Hundreds of chains wrapped around him. Ming Lian's second body had attacked. Break! The first Emperor of the Netherworld shouted. He slashed out with his black sword and tried to break the chains. However, his cultivation level was much lower than that of the red-robed elder. Moreover, he did not have a martial royal spiritual weapon. When he slashed out with his sword, he only managed to break a few chains. More chains wrapped around him. The suppressing prison steel's bloodline had already reached him. It was filled with chaotic will and suppressed the first Emperor of the Netherworld. How dare you be distracted? I can kill one of you. Kill. On the other side, the red-robed elder was overjoyed. His eyes shone with a ferocious light. The sword chi in his sword surged and he attacked Ming Lian's second body. In his opinion, Lu Ming's main body was stupid to kill the first Emperor of the Netherworld. In this way, he could kill the second body first. As long as he killed one, the other one would not be a threat. The terrifying sword radiance slashed at the second body. However, the second body's expression was calm as it continued to retreat. As it did, numerous spell formations began to appear around it. Break! 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 The red-robed elder slashed out with his sword and broke the large arrays. Then, the second body continued to attack. The killing array on the second body shone even brighter. Sword chi shot out, but they were all slashed apart by the red-robed elder's sword. The red-robed elder quickly approached Lu Ming's second body. At this moment, Ming Lian's second body's glabella shone. 2 sword radiances suddenly appeared and attacked the red-robed elder. They were extremely fast. Moreover, the cry of a phoenix could be heard from the 2 sword radiances. Oh no! The red-robed elder was shocked. The 2 sword radiances gave him a sense of danger. He had goosebumps all over his body. At this critical moment, he could not care less about killing Lu Ming's second body. He used his sword to defend himself and slashed at the two sword radiances. Clang! Clang! Sparks flew. The two sword radiances were sent flying by the red-robed elder. However, his arms were slightly numb. What a powerful force! This is, the red-robed elder was shocked. When he saw the two sword radiances, his eyes narrowed. They were two small swords. They were about the length of a palm and looked like two feathers. He could vaguely hear the cry of a phoenix. Chapter 1347. Back then, Lu Ming had followed the ancient desolate city to an island in the heaven realm for the first time. Lu Ming had obtained 5 phoenix feathers. After that, when Ming Lian's second body entered the sacred mansion's secret realm to receive the inheritance of the heavenly profound saint, Lu Ming had given Ming Lian's second body some things related to the path of inscription, including most of the refining materials. Over the years, as Ming Lian's second body's cultivation increased, he had refined the 5 phoenix feathers into 5 flying swords. Lu Ming called them the Phoenix Feather Flying Swords. The Phoenix Feather Flying Swords were extremely sharp and indestructible. They were shockingly powerful. Just now, Ming Lian's second body had used 2 of them, forcing the red-robed elder to defend himself. Ah! On the other side, a scream was heard. The first emperor of the underworld was no match for Lu Ming. Under the suppression of the prison-suppressing steel, the first emperor of the underworld's body cracked and blood spurted out. Boom! The prison-suppressing steel suppressed the first emperor of the underworld's body for the second time. The first emperor of the underworld's body was torn apart and his spiritual spirit exploded. He was the strongest ruler in Nanming, and he became the first ruler to be killed after the war began. And the one who killed him was Lu Ming. In the holy city, countless martial artists who saw this scene couldn't help but gasp. The first emperor of the underworld of the southern underworld was definitely an invincible figure in the past. With a stomp of his foot, not only the southern underworld, but the entire divine region would be shaken. In the past, such a character was like a legend that weighed down on the hearts of countless cultivators. Whenever someone mentioned him, they would tremble in fear. However, such a matchless figure died just like that, killed by an even more powerful expert. Buzz! After killing the first emperor of the underworld, the prison-suppressing steel's bloodline vibrated and suppressed the red-robed elder. Damn it! The red-robed elder roared in his heart. He slashed his sword chi at the second body. But the second body cultivated the path of inscription and had many tricks up his sleeves. All kinds of arrays appeared, some to trap the enemy, some to harass the enemy, some to defend, and some to attack. At the same time, the killing arrays on the second body and the 2 phoenix feather flying swords were extremely powerful. The red-robed elder did not dare to be careless. Although he forced the second body to retreat, he could not do anything to it. Boom! The prison-suppressing steel's bloodline arrived and pressed down on the red-robed elder. Above it, the chaotic will pressed down and the space collapsed, making it difficult for the red-robed elder to breathe. Clang! The red-robed elder wielded the sword with both hands and slashed at the bloodline of the prison-suppressing steel. The prison-suppressing steel's bloodline trembled, and it was sent flying. However, the terrifying power of the prison-suppressing steel caused the red-robed old man's expression to change. It was as if he had been struck by hundreds of mountains. On the other side, the second body had also arrived. Whoosh! Whoosh! The 2 phoenix feather flying swords were incomparably sharp and as fast as lightning. It was almost impossible to see them with the naked eye as they pierced towards the red-robed elder. The red-robed elder focused 120% of his attention to block them. Space fluctuated as the second body stepped into the air, approaching the red-robed old man step by step. With every step it took, a great array would appear in the void. Too difficult to deal with. The red-robed old man's heart was trembling. His eyes were filled with anger and he felt extremely aggrieved. Lu Ming was simply too difficult to deal with. In terms of combat strength, the red-robed old man controlled an emperor-grade spiritual weapon. His combat strength was definitely above Lu Ming's. Neither Lu Ming's main body nor second body could be a match for the red-robed old man. They would be suppressed or even killed. However, when the two of them worked together, their strength would increase exponentially. Even if the red-robed old man had combat strength, he would not be able to use it. If he was not careful, he would be in danger. The red-robed old man roared as his quintessence erupted. He wildly slashed out with the battle sword in his hand. Rays of golden sword light continuously slashed out in all directions, forming a terrifying sword chi storm. Boom! Boom! One after another, the formations were broken and crumbled. Lu Ming's main body and second body smiled coldly. They did not attack, but the second body continued to inscribe arrays and attack the red-robed old man. Controlling an emperor-grade spiritual weapon was something that consumed a lot of quintessence. The red-robed old man's quintessence would not last long under such a fierce attack. Indeed, after a while, the red-robed old man started gasping for breath. His quintessence was severely depleted. This won't do. This won't do. I'll meet up with DE first. If we work together, the situation will be much better. The red-robed elder thought to himself. He realized that if he were to fight Lu Ming alone, he would be too passive. He would not be able to unleash his full potential. If he were to cooperate with others, they would be able to kill Lu Ming at lightning speed. Thinking of this, the red-robed old man wanted to charge at DE. Just at this moment, the eyes of Lu Ming's main body and second body flashed with a cold light at the same time. Boom! The hell-suppressing steel formed by Lu Ming's main body shone brightly. It was as big as a mountain, and the state of chaos lingered around it. Strong energy poured into the third bloodline. The hell-suppressing steel executed the hell-suppressing heavenly art and launched a strong attack at the red-robed old man, suppressing him. At the same time, the second body shouted and the two phoenix feather flying swords flew toward the red-robed old man. As for the second body, the runes on its body were densely packed, forming a terrifying killing formation with boundless killing intent. The second body was the core of the killing formation. Boundless sword chi surged and gathered into one. The second body turned into a sword chi and attacked the second body. Lu Ming launched a strong attack at the red-robed old man. Emperor sword, sword destroying the firmament. The red-robed old man circulated his quintessence crazily and slashed out twice. Two sword chi as big as mountains slashed toward the main body and the second body. Clang! The hell-suppressing steel collided with one of the sword chi. The sword chi dissipated and the hell-suppressing steel was sent flying. On the other side, it was a battle between sword chi. The sword chi whistled and filled the sky with sword chi. The two phoenix feather flying swords and the second body were blocked. However, at this moment, three more sword chi whistled out from the second body's forehead. There were three more phoenix feather flying swords. These three phoenix feather flying swords were beyond the red-robed old man's expectations. The two sword chi attacks just now had exhausted him and he needed time to catch his breath. However, Lu Ming had already calculated the timing and grasped it perfectly. At this moment, he launched a sure-kill attack. The red-robed old man's pupils shrank rapidly as he roared in his heart, "No, poo! Poo! Poo!" The three phoenix feather flying swords pierced through the red-robed old man's body. One went through his forehead, one went through his heart, and one went through his dantian. These three places were all vital points. The red-robed old man's eyes widened in disbelief. He could not believe that he would die in this battle, killed by Lu Ming. Then, the red-robed old man's corpse fell to the ground. A second layer martial monarch peak martial emperor with a martial emperor spirit weapon was killed. The holy city was in an uproar. This was a battle that turned the tide of the battle. The Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace lost a peak expert. Who could stop Lu Ming now? The battle between the martial emperors in the sky became more intense. Casualties also started to appear among the martial emperors. Some martial emperors were injured, and some martial emperors even died on the spot. The battle was extremely tragic. Chapter 1348. However, although those sovereigns were fighting, they were also paying attention to the battlefield. At this moment, after discovering that Lu Ming had killed the red-robed elder, the sovereigns of the northern plains and the heaven-suppressing divine army were greatly motivated. On the other hand, Di Tian Divine Palace and the Xia family were the opposite. They were all shocked. How is this possible? Someone shouted. Lu Ming had actually killed a peak second-level martial emperor who was in control of an emperor-level spirit weapon. How could Lu Ming be so powerful? Would there be a shocking reversal in this battle because of Lu Ming? Boom! On the battlefield closest to Lu Ming, Tu Qian and Xia Jiuyang exchanged blows with De and both sides retreated. Whoosh! Whoosh! Lu Ming's main body and second body broke through the void and appeared beside De, forming a pincer attack. Join forces to attack me. Fine, let's kill them together. At this moment, De was still extremely powerful and his eyes were as sharp as a sword. De, why do we need to attack you together to kill you? Today, I will settle the score with you. Lu Ming said and locked his aura on De. Senior Jiuyang, Tu Qian, go and help the others. Leave De to me. Lu Ming said. Yes. Tu Qian listened to Lu Ming's instructions. He did whatever Lu Ming said. He nodded and flew away, joining the other battle groups. He chopped down with his axe and immediately split an sovereign into two. Oh no, join forces and form a battle formation. An sovereign shouted. Tu Qian's participation undoubtedly broke the balance. Some sovereigns shouted and some sovereigns gathered to form a battlefield to defend. In this way, they could barely deal with Tu Qian. Lu Ming, Xia Jiuyang said and was a little worried for Lu Ming. Senior Jiuyang, don't worry. De and I have to make a decision today. Lu Ming said. Then be careful. Xia Jiuyang warned and also attacked the other sovereigns. Lu Ming's side began to gain the upper hand. In the beginning, they had fewer rulers on their side, so they were at a disadvantage. Now, the situation had reversed. After Xia Jiuyang left, only Martial Emperor De and Lu Ming were left. Boom! Both sides stood facing each other, their killing intent rumbling. After so many years, Lu Ming finally stood in front of De and had a decisive battle with him. Along the way, Lu Ming had experienced countless dangers and tribulations. Finally, he had reached his current combat power and was able to fight it out with De. Because of the Nine Dragons' blood essence, the two of them were on opposing sides. A battle was inevitable. Wang! Lu Ming's spine emitted waves of heat, and a bloody glow filled the air. That was the reaction of the Nine Dragons' bloodline. At the same time, Emperor De's body was filled with a blood-red light and the faint sound of a dragon's roar could be heard. Blood essence of the Nine Dragons. Lu Ming's mind flickered. Through the Nine Dragons' bloodline, he could sense the Nine Dragons' blood essence in Martial Emperor De. Unlike Lu Ming, De's Nine Dragons' blood essence had not awakened his bloodline. Instead, it had merged with his body. That was right. When De obtained the Nine Dragons' blood essence, he was already a martial emperor. He could not use it to awaken his bloodline. He could only refine it. Kill. De did not want to waste any more time. He launched an attack and charged toward Lu Ming. Bang! 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 The second body stepped on the void, and a great formation appeared. There were all kinds of trapping and attacking formations. They emitted all kinds of lights and charged toward Martial Emperor De. At the same time, Sword Chi whistled and 5 phoenix feather flying swords stabbed toward De. The spirit-suppressing Steel's bloodline also charged toward De with the chaotic will. De's combat strength was very strong. He was even stronger than the red-robed old man. However, he was also caught in the red-robed old man's situation. He was put in a difficult position by Lu Ming's main body and second body. He could not use his strength at all. After fighting for a while, Lu Ming began to gain the upper hand. Lu Ming, today, let me show you my strongest combat strength. Martial Emperor De roared furiously. His body began to glow. All kinds of lights were emitted from De's body. These lights formed all kinds of strange phenomena. There were true dragons flying, phoenixes crying, cheelants stepping on the air, divine birds flying in the sky, iron swords moving freely. All kinds of strange phenomena appeared on De's body. Lu Ming even saw the 9 dragons among them. 10,000 veins spiritual body. De let out a long howl. His body exuded a terrifying fluctuation. Whoosh! Whoosh! De's combat strength increased greatly. The golden battle sword flew across the sky. Sword Chi moved freely, breaking everything. The formation set up by Ming Lian's second body was instantly destroyed by the sword Chi. Clang! The battle sword struck the spirit-suppressing Steel's bloodline. The spirit-suppressing Steel's bloodline shook violently and flew far away. The spirit-suppressing Steel's bloodline. Fortunately, there was a fragment of the spirit-suppressing Steel's main body, which greatly increased its defense. Otherwise, Lu Ming would not have dared to fight it head-on. Ding! 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 The 5 phoenix feather flying swords were sent flying. So was the second body, who kept retreating. How powerful! Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. De's combat strength had suddenly increased greatly. It was all because of the strange phenomena on his body. Lu Ming guessed that De must have cultivated a powerful spiritual body with the help of the blood essence of all spirits. When the spiritual body exploded, its power was far beyond that of an ordinary spiritual body. Spirits of all things, kill! De hollered. The various living creatures in his body suddenly roared and transformed into streaks of rainbow lights, charging toward Lu Ming. Roar! Lu Ming saw 9 dragons, true dragons, and cheelants among them. They emitted a shocking aura and attacked Lu Ming. The spirit-suppressing Steel vibrated. It used the spirit-suppressing heavenly skill, which carried the chaotic will, and attacked continuously. Bang! 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 Explosions sounded continuously. De himself held the battle sword and attacked Ming Lian's second body. "I'll kill you first," De said coldly. In his eyes, the second body was more difficult to deal with. It had many tricks and thousands of changes. He had to kill the second body first. Lu Ming's main body was nothing to be afraid of. "De, you think you can kill me? Today, I'll show you something." Ming Lian's second body looked calm and smiled inexplicably. Whoosh! Ming Lian's second body waved his hand, and a scroll flew out and expanded rapidly, encapsulating Martial Emperor De's figure. The Million Formation Illustration, Liao Tsang's Million Formation Illustration. Martial Emperor De shouted angrily. "Then, I'll let you taste the power of the Million Formation Illustration again." Ming Lian's second body's golden spirit fire jumped between his eyebrows. Endless light shone on the million formation illustration. It was a large formation, densely packed. One by one, the big matrices lit up. Countless terrifying attacks flew out and attacked DE. Whoosh! Whoosh! DE held the battle sword. Sword chi whistled and slashed out crazily, destroying the attacks. However, the million formation illustration had endless formations and endless attacks. It seemed to be endless, attacking DE continuously. There was no doubt that the million formation illustration was also an emperor spiritual weapon. Chapter 1349. Back then, Liao Tsang was an inscriptionist who controlled the spiritual weapon, the million formation atlas. He had many tricks up his sleeves, which was why DE launched a sneak attack on him. Even so, Liao Tsang still left a trace of his imprint underground. The million formation atlas was severely damaged. Over the years, Ming Lian's second body had been cultivating hard in the Saint Mansion's secret realm. As his cultivation increased, he had also been repairing the million formation atlas. Now, the million formation atlas was 80 to 90% repaired. Under the control of the second body, its power was amazing. Ming Lian's second body had the combat strength of the peak of the second level of the martial royal realm. With the addition of the 5 phoenix feather flying swords, he was even more powerful. Now that he had used the million formation atlas, his combat strength was almost the same as DE's. DE could only use all his attention to deal with Ming Lian's second body. Buzz! At this moment, the prison-suppressing steel vibrated and suppressed DE. Damn it! DE roared in his heart. He divided part of his attention to resist Lu Ming's main body. Boom! The prison-suppressing steel weighed hundreds of millions of pounds. It made DE's body shake. At the same time, Ming Lian's second body seized the opportunity to launch a storm-like attack. Trap him. There were at least 100 entrapment formations in the million formation atlas. They suppressed DE at the same time, trying to trap him. DE roared and tried his best to fight. Unfortunately, he was at a disadvantage. After Ming Lian's second body had used the million formation atlas, the combat strength of the main body and the second body had surpassed DE's. DE tried his best to fight back, but after dozens of moves, he was completely suppressed and had almost no power to fight back. Whoosh! 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 The 5 phoenix feather flying swords pierced the void. They were so fast that even ordinary emperors could not see them clearly. They stabbed toward DE's 5 vital points. DE waved his battle sword to block. Although he blocked them, the prison-suppressing steel suppressed him again. DE roared and could only cover his body with his realm and vital essence. Boom! The realm and vital essence shook violently and were defeated by the prison-suppressing steel. DE's body shook violently. Even though he had cultivated the 10,000 veins spiritual body, he could not resist. His face turned pale and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The 10,000 meridian spirit body that DE cultivated was very terrifying. If he cultivated it to perfection, his power would be amazing. Unfortunately, his cultivation was not perfect and he did not succeed completely. Therefore, he had always wanted to get Lu Ming's 9 dragons blood essence. Many people's hearts trembled. DE was injured and was no match for Lu Ming. Could it be that the outcome of the battle would be decided this time? Boom! Boom! As soon as DE was injured, Lu Ming launched an even fiercer attack. Puff! A phoenix feather flying sword almost pierced through DE's heart. It pierced through his shoulder, bringing out a stream of blood. DE's face was even paler. Although the phoenix feather flying sword had not pierced his vital parts, its terrible sword chi and destructive power still made his injuries worse. The more serious his injuries were, the more difficult it would be for him to resist Lu Ming. Under the pressure of the prison defending monument, he spat out mouthfuls of blood. His body staggered and his breathing weakened. Trap! The second body shouted softly. The million formation image shone, and a great formation appeared, enveloping De. De roared and tried his best to resist, but this time, it was difficult for him to rush out. The avatars of dragons and phoenixes on his body were trembling, as if they would collapse at any moment. De, today is the day you die. Lu Ming's cold voice came from the hell-suppressing tombstone. Roar! With a dragon's roar, the 9 dragons' bloodline flew out from the hell-suppressing tombstone. It opened its mouth and roared loudly. A devouring power burst out, enveloping De. 9 dragons' blood essence, take! Lu Ming shouted loudly, and the devouring power increased crazily. It could be seen that one of the avatars on De's body was a 9 dragons. At this time, the 9 dragons were being devoured by the devouring power and involuntarily flew towards the 9 dragons' bloodline. Lu Ming wanted to take a drop of 9 dragons' blood essence from De's body. Don't even think about it. De tried his best to resist. Whoosh! 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 5 phoenix feather flying swords shot out rapidly. De blocked 4 of them, but one of them hit him, almost cutting off half of his body. Roar! At this time, the 9 dragons' bloodline roared. The 9 dragons' avatars on De's body flew towards the 9 dragons' bloodline. At the same time, a drop of blood essence appeared on De's body. The dragon roared and flew towards Lu Ming. The 9 dragons' blood essence was taken away. De was unwilling, but he could only watch helplessly. Whoosh! The 9 dragons' blood essence flew into the mouth of the 9 dragons' bloodline and disappeared. Roar! The 9 dragons' bloodline roared loudly, as if it was very satisfied. Its aura grew stronger. Xiaofan, if you don't do it now, when will you? Suddenly, De roared angrily. Lu Ming raised his eyebrows. 9 heaven bronze men, go! Xiaofan's loud voice came from the sky. Dong! 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 As soon as Xiaofan's voice fell, violent vibrations came from 9 different places in the sacred city. 9 powerful auras shot up into the sky. Following that, everyone saw 9 golden rays of light shoot up into the sky. Those are the bronze men. Lu Ming saw that the 9 lights were 9 bronze men. They were golden all over and made of brass. They were more than 3 meters tall and densely packed inscriptions appeared on their bodies. Their auras were extremely powerful. Each of them was an emperor, equivalent to a LV1 martial royal realm emperor. The 9 bronze men flew into the sky and joined the battle, pushing back the 9 emperors. Merge with the bronze men. Xiaofan's voice came again. At this moment, 9 sovereigns from the Xia clan and the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace flew towards the 9 bronze men. It was as if they were performing bloodline fusion. These 9 sovereigns directly fused into the bronze men and disappeared. The auras of the 9 bronze men started to rise rapidly. They broke through LV1 Martial Royal Realm and reached LV2 Martial Royal Realm. They continued to rise until they reached peak LV2 Martial Royal Realm. Peak LV2 Martial Royal Realm, 9 peak LV2 Martial Royal Realm Emperors. Oh no! Lu Ming was shocked. Kill! Kill! The 9 bronze men roared and charged toward the divine guards and the emperors of the northern plains. Peak LV2 Martial Royal Realm Emperors were too powerful. Ordinary LV1 Martial Royal Realm Emperors could not resist. Screams were heard all of a sudden. Lu Ming saw that 5 emperors had been killed in an instant. On the northern plain side, Martial Royal Realm Broken Mountain, Martial Royal Realm Tianfeng, and 3 martial royal realm emperors were killed in an instant. 5 martial royal realm emperors were killed just like that. The other 4 bronze men were blocked by Tu Qian, Xia Jiuyang, and the Baijian martial royal realm emperor. Otherwise, they would have suffered a greater loss. Oh no, that's the 9 heavens bronze man of the Xia family. The 9 heavens bronze man of the Xia family is still here. Fall back, fall back. The experts of the Heaven Suppression Army and the Northern Plains side all roared in fear. It was said that when the ancient sacred dynasty was first established, the first sacred emperor had gathered the experts of the world and spent a lot of effort to forge 9 bronze men. Each bronze man was extremely mysterious and powerful. Chapter 1350. As soon as the 9 bronze men appeared, they were controlled by 9 sovereigns. Their combat strength was at the peak of LV2 martial royal realm, and they instantly turned the tables. Boom! While Lu Ming was distracted, De burst out. His body burned like flames as he rushed out of the encirclement and flew into the sky. Lu Ming, you are the ones who will die today. You are no match for me. De roared as his body emitted a cold killing intent. Gather, gather together. Baijian martial emperor gathered everyone. The Xia clan's foundation was too shocking. No wonder it was said that no one in the history of the sacred city had ever been breached. With such a strong foundation, who could defeat them? Under the control of 9 martial royal realm experts, the 9 bronze men were equivalent to peak LV2 martial royal realm experts. How strong was the combat strength of 9 peak LV2 martial royal realm experts? Baijian martial emperor, Tu Qian, Xia Jiuyang, barbarian martial emperor, Yuexin martial emperor and the others gathered together and looked at the 9 bronze men cautiously. Kill! Kill them! Xia Qitian gave the order. Kill! Kill! The 9 bronze men were 3 meters tall. As they stepped on the void exploded continuously. They formed an arc and flew towards Baijian martial emperor and the others. Beside them were Xia Qitian and the other sovereigns. They won. The Xia clan and Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace will win. There is no suspense in this battle. From now on, the divine region will belong to the Xia clan and Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace. In the sacred city, many people who were watching the battle sighed. They felt that there was no suspense in this battle. The Xia clan and Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace would win for sure. With the appearance of the 9 bronze men, the outcome of the battle was set. Some people sighed. This battle was too exciting. Even the lives of sovereigns were like grass in a battle between sovereigns. Up until now, more than 10 sovereigns had fallen. This battle would be recorded in the annals of history and spread through the ages. Let's fight to the death. Baijian martial emperor roared. Kill! Tu Qian held his battle axe and rushed towards a bronze man. He chopped down with his axe. As for the bronze man, he punched out. Clang! Tu Qian was controlling a sovereign spiritual weapon and his combat strength was stronger. He sent the bronze man flying with his axe. He is not injured. The hearts of Baijian martial emperor and the others shuddered. Although Tu Qian managed to send a bronze statue flying and had the upper hand, the bronze statue was completely fine. Only a faint mark appeared on his fist. It was too hard. Even an emperor-grade spirit weapon couldn't cut it, so how could they fight it? The eyes of the Baijian martial emperor and the others flickered with despair. 3 of us will deal with this puppet. As for the rest, kill them. Don't let a single one of them go. A voice came from a bronze statue. Whoosh! Whoosh! A few bronze men started to surround Tu Qian, while the rest of the bronze men attacked Baijian Wu Huang and the others. With a flicker, 2 figures appeared in front of the Baijian martial emperor and the others. They were Lu Ming's main body and second body. At this moment, Lu Ming's main body had returned to its human form. "Leave these 9 bronze men to me. You guys go deal with the others," Lu Ming said. What? Baijian Martial Emperor and the others were stunned. The 9 bronze statues were to be given to Lu Ming? Lu Ming was going to deal with the 9 bronze statues on his own? How was this possible? Although Lu Ming's strength was strong and he might be able to deal with 2 or 3 bronze statues, how could Lu Ming stand a chance against so many 9 heavens bronze statues? These were 9 bronze statues with cultivation of the second-layer martial dominator realm, and they were extremely hard. Even a third-layer martial dominator realm expert would not be able to break them. "Lu Ming, let's work together. There's still hope." "That's right, it's too dangerous for you to fight alone." The Barbarian Emperor, Wuxian Martial Emperor, and the others spoke. Kill Lu Ming first. Since he wants to die, let's kill him first." Xiaofan yelled in the sky. Kill! Kill! Bang! 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 The 9 bronze statues charged at Lu Ming. It seemed like they would be able to shatter some of the statues. Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron, suppress. The 9 dragons' bloodline appeared above Lu Ming's head. He opened his mouth and roared. 9 large cauldrons appeared from the mouths of the 9 dragons. Once the large cauldrons appeared, they expanded rapidly. They were as large as mountains and blasted toward the 9 bronze men. Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron, you brought the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron. Martial Emperor De yelled in fear in the sky. The Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron had never moved. It had been refined by an ancient expert to suppress the 9 dragon veins. In history, only Lu Ming had made the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron move once because of the blood of the 9 dragons. Even De, who had obtained a drop of the blood of the 9 dragons, had refined it into his body in order to cultivate the 10,000 veins spiritual body. Therefore, he could not use the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron. Moreover, if the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron was too far away from the 9 dragon veins, the dragon veins would go berserk and the cauldron would fly back. Most importantly, why did no one in 9 Dragon City inform him that Lu Ming had taken the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron? Roar! The 9 dragons roared as the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron charged at the 9 bronze statues. Break! The 9 bronze statues attacked together and threw a punch. Dong! Dong! It was as if 2 metal mountains had collided with each other, emitting a terrifying rumble. The sound waves from the collision between the metals made the faces of some ordinary rulers turn pale. The vital essence covering their bodies trembled. Bang! 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 Then, the 9 bronze statues flew far away like cannonballs. How is this possible? Xiaofan and the others were stunned. The 9 bronze statues fell to the ground. They were no match for Lu Ming and were sent flying. How was this possible? On the other hand, Baijian Martial Emperor and the others were overjoyed. Suppress! Lu Ming shouted. The 9 cauldrons continued to suppress the 9 bronze statues. When Lu Ming was still in the Sea of Soul realm and his 9 dragons bloodline was only at the 2nd level of the Divine realm, he could control the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron and fight against a martial emperor. In the end, when the 9 cauldrons gathered together, he could even exchange a blow with De's clone. Now, Lu Ming's cultivation was many times stronger than before. Moreover, his 9 dragons bloodline had reached the 9th level of the Divine realm. The power of the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron was naturally many times stronger. It could completely suppress the 9 bronze statues. Boom! 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 The Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron suppressed the 9 bronze statues. The 9 bronze statues trembled violently and the patterns on them shone brightly as if they were burning. But in just a few breaths of time, it seemed to burn out. The light on the bronze figure's body rapidly dimmed. Following that, 9 consecutive explosions rang out as the 9 bronze statues actually exploded. The 9 heaven bronze statues were made by the first sacred emperor of the ancient Saint dynasty. Finally, they exploded under the attack of the divine 9 dragon cauldron. The 9 sovereigns who had merged with the bronze statues and controlled them did not even have time to scream before they turned into ashes. The 9 bronze statues were destroyed. The scene suddenly became silent. Everyone could not believe what they had just seen. Xiao. At this moment, a corpse fell from the sky. Di Hongqing, it was Di Hongqing. He was killed. Chapter 1351. In the end, Xiaofan was stronger than Di Hongqing. After fighting for so long, he had finally killed Di Hongqing. During the battle, Xiaofan had been paying attention to the situation. He knew everything that was happening. Attack together and decide the victor. Xiaofan's voice rang out, his killing intent sharp as a knife. Attack! Kill! Baijian martial monarch, Chu Luo, barbarian emperor, and the others charged at the remaining sovereigns of the Xia clan and Di Tian divine palace. As for the remaining sovereigns of the Xia clan and Di Tian divine palace, they did not have any fighting spirit at all. Lu Ming is not a match for him. Run! Run quickly! The sovereigns of the Xia clan and Di Tian divine palace were nearly scared out of their wits. They no longer had any fighting spirit and turned to run. Dang! Dang! The divine 9 dragon cauldron shook, suppressing the surroundings and blocking their path. Whoosh! Martial monarch De suddenly charged in a direction. Since the situation was over, De also prepared to run. De, where are you going? Lu Ming shouted, and the 2 divine 9 dragon cauldrons pressed down on De. Dong! Dong! De used the sovereign spirit weapon to block, but it was useless. The battle sword buzzed, and De vomited a large mouthful of blood. Cracks appeared on his body, and he almost exploded. Burn! Martial monarch De roared. The true dragons, phoenixes, and other mysterious phenomena around him suddenly burned fiercely. His aura suddenly increased by several times. Whoosh! Martial monarch De turned into a beam of light and charged out of the encirclement, flying into the distance. After him. Lu Ming did not hesitate. He controlled the divine 9 dragon cauldron and chased after martial monarch De. At the same time, he secretly instructed Tu Qian to lead people to kill the remaining sovereigns of the Xia clan and Di Tian divine palace. After being surrounded by the divine 9 dragon cauldron, the remaining sovereigns of the Xia clan and Di Tian divine palace were surrounded by Tu Qian, Baijian martial monarch, and the others. There was no need for him to worry about this anymore. The situation was set. Although there were still some sovereigns of the Xia clan and Di Tian divine palace, they were not too strong. The old general blocked Xia Zhangqiong. On Lu Ming's side, there were experts like Tu Qian, Xiaofan, Baijian martial emperor, and Xia Jiuyang. Xiao! Xiao! The 2 of them instantly disappeared into the distance. In the imperial city, another great battle had erupted. However, there was no suspense in this battle. The sovereigns of the Xia clan and the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace were killed one after another. Lu Ming and De, one chasing and the other fleeing, traveled tens of thousands of miles in an instant. The second body took a step forward and disappeared between Lu Ming's eyebrows. At the same time, inscriptions appeared on Lu Ming's body. They were all auxiliary inscriptions and almost all of them increased speed. Lu Ming's speed greatly increased and he began to approach Emperor De. De, you've lost. Where do you think you're going? Lu Ming's voice rang out as he circulated the wind origin technique, increasing his speed. Di Yi's face was pale. His eyes were cold and full of murderous intent. Without saying a word, he gritted his teeth and ran away. Flames burned on his body, allowing him to move at an astonishing speed. Di Yi was burning his 10,000 veins spiritual body. Lu Ming, don't be happy too early. I'm going to tear you to pieces. Di Yi roared in his heart. His murderous intent toward Lu Ming had reached its peak. Di Yi had cultivated for 10,000 years, taking all kinds of bloodlines and using the essence blood of all kinds of experts to cultivate the 10,000 veins spiritual body. Originally, he was just one step away from success and perfection. However, now, all his previous efforts were in vain. In order to escape, he burned his 10,000 veins spiritual body. All his hard work over the years was for naught. The two of them, one chasing and the other fleeing, moved at an astonishing speed. They tore through the void and traveled through the alternate space. Soon, they crossed the middle continent and arrived in the northern plains. Then, they flew toward the boundless ocean. Damn it! Emperor Di Yi roared in his heart. He was getting more and more anxious. He was already seriously injured. After the long journey, his injuries worsened. If this continued, Lu Ming would catch up to him. He was not willing to accept this. How could he, Di Yi, die here? He wanted to tear Lu Ming to pieces. Suddenly, he clenched his teeth and revealed a resolute expression. Lu Ming, just you wait. Di Yi let out a roar, and the flames on his body suddenly surged. Explode! Burn! Di Yi roared. Then, his speed suddenly skyrocketed. He passed through layers of space and quickly left. The distance between him and Lu Ming rapidly increased. This guy, Lu Ming, also admired Di Yi's decisiveness. He could see that Di Yi had completely burned his spiritual body. His 10,000 vein spiritual body was completely wasted. Even if he escaped, Di Yi might not be able to maintain his cultivation. He might even regress. In the future, it might even be difficult for him to improve. In order to survive, Di Yi was going all out. The distance between the two grew larger and larger. In the end, Lu Ming could barely see Di Yi's shadow. After a while, Lu Ming could no longer see or sense Di Yi's existence. Lu Ming had no choice but to stop. This guy still managed to escape. However, this guy is seriously injured and has completely burned his spiritual body. His cultivation will definitely regress. In the future, he won't be a threat to me. However, Lu Ming frowned. He thought of Di Hongcheng and the red-robed elder. Where did these two people come from? And they used a unified sovereign spiritual weapon. Could there be a powerful force behind Di Yi? Lu Ming was not worried about Di Yi himself. What he was worried about was the force behind Di Yi. Forget it. I'll deal with it as it comes. Thinking of this, Lu Ming turned around and walked toward Sacred City. By the time Lu Ming returned to Sacred City, the battle in Sacred City had already ended. There was no suspense. With Tu Qian and Xiaofan, the battle was almost one-sided. Almost all the sovereigns of Di Tian Divine Palace were killed. Only a few sovereigns who were originally the overlords of Zhongzhou State surrendered to Di Yi and were controlled by Xiaofan and the others. After engraving a formation, they could only obey their orders. As for the sovereigns of the Xia family, only a few were left. The rest were all killed. Xia Qitian, the old saint emperor, Xia Zhangqiong, and a white-haired elder were surrounded by Xiaofan and the others. Xiaofan and the others knew about the relationship between Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. They also knew that Xian Yanqing was a member of the Xia family. Therefore, they did not kill these people. They deliberately waited for Lu Ming to return. Xia Qitian and the others stood on the platform. Their eyes were lifeless and filled with despair. They had lost. They had suffered a crushing defeat. This time, the Xia family was in a worse state than 30,000 years ago when Xiaofan caused chaos in the world and betrayed the Xia family. Last time, they had at least suppressed Xiaofan and retained some strength. There was still hope for them to slowly recover. However, this time, they were completely defeated. Their masters were all dead and injured. There was nothing they could do. How could this be? In Sacred City, countless disciples of the Xia family, such as Xia Yan, were paralyzed on the ground. Their eyes were lifeless. The Xia family had lost. Even their sovereigns had been defeated. The others could not do anything. If they made a move, they would only be courting death. The other martial artists had complicated looks in their eyes. Was the ancient Saint Dynasty Xia family, which had been passed down for millions of years, going to be destroyed from now on? From now on, who would be the master of the divine region? Chapter 1352. General Lu. General Lu. Seeing that Lu Ming had returned, all the emperors bowed to Lu Ming. They looked at Lu Ming with awe and respect. Whether it was the emperors of the divine army like Baijian Wu Huang or the northern plains, they were all the same. The reason why they could win this battle was all because of Lu Ming. Right from the beginning, Lu Ming had displayed incredible combat power. He had killed the first emperor of the Netherworld, the red-robed elder, and fought De. Slowly, he had turned the tide of the battle and allowed them to gain the upper hand. Later, the Xia clan took out the ninth heaven bronze man and changed the situation. At that time, they thought that they were going to lose and that there was no hope for this battle. But at the critical moment, Lu Ming turned the tide and destroyed the ninth heaven bronze man and killed the 9 emperors. This time, the situation was completely reversed and they had secured victory. Without Lu Ming, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Hearing the commotion, Xia Qitian, the old saint emperor, and the others trembled slightly. They also looked at Lu Ming with complicated expressions. It was all because of this young man. It was all because of him that the Xia clan had fallen to such a state. Back then, it was Lu Ming who saved Xiaofan. Xiaofan threw out the Heavenly King Edict and changed the situation of the divine region. It also disrupted the Xia clan's deployment and directly led to the subsequent battle. And this time, it was also because of Lu Ming that the Xia clan had suffered a crushing defeat. Were we wrong? Was it worth it because of the purity of the bloodline? The old saint emperor looked even older. He sighed and his voice fell into Xia Qitian's ears, making him feel even more complicated. Yes, was it worth it? Speaking of which, the source of all this was not caused by him. If he had treated Xia Nianqing well, then Lu Ming might have walked together with the Xia clan and even become a member of the Xia clan. Then, it was not impossible for the Xia clan to unify the divine region again. Speaking of which, it was all because of him. He had personally turned Lu Ming into an enemy. At this moment, he did not know what to feel in his heart. Lu Ming, where's De? Xiaofan walked towards Lu Ming and asked through voice transmission. He escaped. Lu Ming replied. Escaped? Xiaofan was slightly stunned and said, no harm either. De's vitality is greatly damaged and can't stir up any waves either. Lu Ming nodded. General Lu, how should we deal with these people from the Xia family? To kill or not to kill? A ruler asked Lu Ming. Everyone looked at Lu Ming. After this battle, Lu Ming's position in everyone's hearts was very important, even far exceeding Xiaofan's. Lu Ming looked at Xia Nianqing. At this moment, Xia Nianqing was looking at Xia Qitian and the others. No one knew what he was thinking. Little Qing, I'll leave them to you. Lu Ming walked to Xia Nianqing's side and said. There was hesitation in Xia Nianqing's eyes, and a trace of reluctance flashed in the depths of his eyes. Lu Ming sighed. He had already guessed this result. Xia Nianqing's expression looked cold and her methods were ruthless like a witch, but deep in her heart, she was still very emotional. After all, Xia Qitian was her father, and the old sacred emperor was her grandfather. They were her family. Although the Xia family was ruthless to her, she couldn't bear to be ruthless. General Lu, Miss Nianqing, the Xia family has a long history and a deep foundation. They have many experts. Leaving them alive will be a disaster. That's right. I suggest that we kill them to prevent future troubles. The other rulers all spoke up and gave their suggestions. You don't have to do it. Suddenly, Xia Qitian spoke, as if he had made some kind of decision. He stepped forward, revealing a powerful aura and a kind of majesty. It was the majesty of a sacred emperor. Xia Qitian's gaze swept across the crowd, and his voice came from afar. I am the sacred emperor of the ancient sacred dynasty. Even if I die, I won't die in your hands, nor will I die in the hands of others. After saying that, Xia Qitian's finger suddenly pointed at his dantian. A powerful aura suddenly erupted from his body, but soon after, this aura rapidly weakened. At first, it was a martial emperor, then it fell to a prime, and then it continued to fall to a spiritual god, then a spiritual embryo. In the end, there was no true essence or true qi fluctuation on Xia Qitian's body, and he became an ordinary person. He had crippled his own cultivation. Puff! Xia Qitian spat out a mouthful of blood, and his body went limp on the ground. As the sacred emperor, he had to die with dignity. Even if he died, he couldn't die in the hands of others. In the end, Xia Qitian looked at Xia Nianqing with a complicated gaze, as if he was reminiscing. After a while, he said, Nianqing, in this life, I have wronged you and your mother. These words caused Xia Nianqing's delicate body to tremble. Xia Qitian's age had long surpassed that of an ordinary person. Now that his cultivation had been crippled, he wouldn't be able to live for long. Lu Ming held Xia Nianqing's small hand, and only then did Xia Nianqing slowly calm down. Sigh, forget it, forget it. In this world, there is no dynasty that can last forever, and no clan that can last forever. The old sacred emperor sighed, then looked at Lu Ming and said, Lu Ming, the Xia clan is willing to make a blood oath. All the direct descendants of the Xia clan are willing to go into seclusion in the palace, and not step out of the palace for 10,000 years. From then on, they will no longer care about the divine wilderness. Can you let the Xia clan live? Seal the palace for 10,000 years and not step out of it. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. All right, I promise you. After pondering for a while, Lu Ming said. The Xia clan was no longer a threat, let alone sealing themselves for 10,000 years. Not to mention 10,000 years, Lu Ming was confident that he could destroy the Xia clan in 10 more years. After 10,000 years, Lu Ming's cultivation would have reached an unknown level. Why would he care about a mere Xia clan? The other emperors didn't say anything. Lu Ming would definitely step into the emperor realm, and he would have a lifespan of 10,000 to 20,000 years. After 10,000 years, why would Lu Ming care about the Xia clan? What could the Xia clan do? The old sacred emperor, Xia Zhangqiong, and the others immediately made a blood oath. The other higher-ups of the Xia clan, such as the sovereigns and spirit gods, all made a blood oath. Disciples of the Xia clan, follow me into the palace. The old sacred emperor's voice resounded, and all the direct descendants of the Xia clan followed the old sacred emperor and the others into the palace. After that, a screen of light appeared outside the palace and enveloped the palace. The Xia clan would seal themselves for 10,000 years, and they wouldn't be able to step out of the palace for 10,000 years. At this point, the curtains of the battle had completely fallen. In this battle, more than half of the Divine Wilderness Continent's emperors had fallen, and more than 60 to 70% of the overlord forces had been wiped out. It could be said that the Divine Wilderness Continent had never been so weak, and there were so few emperors. Let's go. Let's return to the 100-Beast tribe. Lu Ming waved his hands. He pulled Xie Nianqing and left by stepping into the air. The Heaven Suppression Army and the Northern Plains emperors followed Lu Ming back to the Northern Plains. As for the news of this battle, it spread from the Holy City to the entire Divine Wilderness Continent at an unbelievable speed. Chapter 1353. In the meeting hall of the 100-Beast tribe, the sovereigns of the Heaven Suppression Army and the sovereigns of the Northern Plains took their seats. Lu Ming and Xiaofan sat at the top. The hall was silent. Everyone looked at each other, but no one made a sound. What should we do next? Xia Jiuyang was the first to speak, breaking the silence. What should they do? Many thoughts flashed through everyone's mind. Now that the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace had been destroyed and the Xia clan had suffered heavy losses, they had sealed themselves in the palace for 10,000 years. Aside from the Western Desert, the vast Divine Desolate Continent was now ownerless. So, what should they do next? In other words, how should they distribute it? Everyone wanted the boundless resources in this boundless territory. On the smaller side, there were some overlord factions present, such as the World Academy, the Floating Mountain Sect, and others. How should these factions distribute their territories? On the larger side, it was the Heaven Suppression Army and the Northern Plains factions. How should these two factions get along and distribute their territories? In fact, there were also Lu Ming and Xiaofan's factions in the Northern Plains. However, they were only in an alliance. Everyone fell silent again, especially the Heaven Suppression Army. This was an important problem. If it was not solved properly, it might lead to another huge battle. However, how could the Heaven Suppression Army be a match for Lu Ming and the others? If they fought, they would be destroyed. Hence, the experts of the Heaven Suppression Army felt the most complicated. They found it difficult to speak. A mountain could not accommodate two tigers. Would Lu Ming and Xiaofan attack them next? They were not confident. Why don't we form an alliance? After a long while, Xiaofan spoke. An alliance? Many people's hearts trembled as they began to ponder. If we form an alliance, all the factions will form one faction. Then, the entire Divine Desolate Continent will be under our control. Why should we worry about territory and territory? Xiaofan smiled. I agree. I agree too. At first, it was Chu Luo, Mo Yi, and the others. Then, Xia Jiuyang, the barbarian emperor, Yuexin martial monarch, and the others spoke one after another, expressing their agreement. Sovereign Wan Tian's suggestion is good. I agree too. The old general of the Heaven Suppression Army laughed and expressed his thoughts. In the end, everyone looked at Lu Ming. Lu Ming still hadn't said anything. I have no objections either. Lu Ming smiled. All right, it's settled then. Xiaofan smiled. Since it's an alliance, there must be an alliance leader. Who will be the alliance leader? All of a sudden, a ruler spoke. The scene fell silent again. Who would be the leader? To form an alliance and form a force, there was no doubt that the leader of the alliance would be the master of the force. He would also be the master of the Divine Wilderness, the ruler of the world. Everyone couldn't help but look at the old general, Xiaofan, and Lu Ming. Only these three people were qualified to do so. Of course it's Lu Ming. Lu Ming is so young and his battle prowess is unparalleled. There has never been such a person since the Divine Desolate era. Other than him, who else could it be? Xia Jiuyang spoke first, recommending Lu Ming. That's right. If it wasn't for Lu Ming, how could we have ended up like this? In that case, we would be the ones who would die. Lu Ming turned the tide and turned the situation around. I also recommend Lu Ming to be the leader. One of the deans of the World Academy spoke. I also recommend Lu Ming. Me too. Following this, the other deans of the World Academy, the Barbaric Emperor and Wuxian Martial Emperor recommended Lu Ming. Behind Lu Ming, the auras of the Heaven Suppression Divine Ape and Tu Qian went without saying. Everyone was stunned. Unknowingly, Lu Ming's force and strength had become so shocking. Lu Ming picked up a cup and drank slowly without saying a word. No one knew what he was thinking. The eyes of the martial emperors of the Heaven Suppression Army, Mo Yi, Chu Luo, and the others flickered as if they were planning something. Not bad. I also recommend Lu Ming to be the alliance leader. Xiaofan laughed and expressed his thoughts. The moment Xiaofan spoke, Mo Yi, Chu Luo and the others also spoke to support Lu Ming. In the end, only the Heaven Suppression Divine Army was left. The emperors of the Heaven Suppression Divine Army sighed in their hearts. They knew that they were weak and couldn't compete with Lu Ming. Now that Xiaofan supported Lu Ming, how could they say no? Old General, what do you think? Xiaofan looked at the old general with a faint smile. Little brother Lu Ming's talent is unprecedented. He has contributed the most this time. It is the blessing of the Divine Wilderness Continent that Lu Ming is the alliance leader. I have no objections. The old general also spoke. The old general spoke. The 100 Battles Martial Emperor and the others also recommended Lu Ming. Alright, then it's decided. This subordinate pays his respects to the alliance leader. Xiaofan suddenly stood up from his seat and walked down to bow to Lu Ming. This subordinate pays his respects to the alliance leader. Xia Jiuyang, the barbaric emperor, and the others followed closely behind Xiaofan and bowed to Lu Ming. Following that, Chu Luo and the others also bowed to Lu Ming. Finally, it was the Heaven Suppression Divine Army and the others. Alright, since the army recommends me so much, I, Lu Ming, will not decline. Lu Ming stood up and accepted the position of alliance leader. He didn't decline, nor did he need to. He needed this identity to better protect his family and friends. Alliance leader, since we are going to form an alliance, what should we name it? Someone suggested. The alliance leader has awakened the 9 dragons bloodline and is famous in the world. In my opinion, why don't we call ourselves the Dragon Alliance? Xia Jiuyang pondered for a moment and said. Dragon Alliance? I think it's fine. It's concise and domineering. Xiaofan said. Alright, then we'll call ourselves the Dragon Alliance. In the end, Lu Ming made the decision. Now that the name was decided, the problem was, where would the Dragon Alliance's headquarters be? It couldn't be in the Sacred City, right? Eastern Wilderness, Northern Plains, and Southern Underworld weren't good. The Dragon Alliance had to conquer the world and unify the Divine Wilderness. Its headquarters had to be in the Central Continent. Only then could it look down on the world. In the end, everyone discussed. Since the Dragon Alliance was building a new headquarters, it would be best to build one as well. After the discussion, everyone chose disciples in the vast land of the Central Continent. In the end, everyone decided to build the Dragon Alliance's headquarters on Dragon Leaping Mountain, about 150 million kilometers east of the Sacred City. It would be called Dragon Emperor City. After the headquarters decided on the Alliance leader's name, they started to choose the important core members. In the end, Xiaofan and the Heaven Suppression Divine Army's old general would be the Dragon Alliance's deputy alliance leader. The other emperors would be the Dragon Alliance's protectors. Every protector had the power to control a territory. After the core members were decided, it was time to assign tasks. There were 2 main aspects to the current mission. First, they had to deploy manpower to build Dragon Emperor City. Second, they had to send an army to unify the divine wilderness continent. The Xia clan had sealed itself, and the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace had been destroyed. Almost all the overlord factions with emperors in the divine wilderness continent were members of the Dragon Alliance. However, there were countless factions of various sizes below the overlord factions. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.